Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining Danielle and I during this beautiful, special place that we are co-creating. This conversation is going to give birth to two new, beautiful, amazing projects. The first is going to be conversations with Danielle Fiorello on her beautiful YouTube channel. And then it's also going to be the start of a show called Sea Goddess Soul Story Spotlight for our Sea Goddess community and for those who are wanting to share a little bit about where they're at in their journeys right now and what's happening. This space was inspired by May being Mental Health Awareness Month, and both Danielle and I believing recovery is possible, what that looks like, and a little more details with that. Danielle had an experience recently that inspired her to reach out to me to create this beautiful space. And I want her to share that with you all and let you know exactly where this came from. And we're going to hold some space and share a little bit about Danielle's story and her journey today. Thank you so much, Danielle. I'm so grateful. Please share with us everything that is on your heart and mind that you're wanting to.
Thank you, Mandy. I just want to say really thank you for being willing to do this with me when I reached out to you. Honestly, I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, I would never, ever just like hit someone up and be like, would you interview me for my story? Like usually people like seek people out and be like, hey, can I interview you for your story? But yes, there is a very special reason for this happening. And that's because Danielle doesn't ever want to give up and is determined to make things happen even in the face of difficulty and adversity. So what happened was I had been contacted by an organization that I work closely with that deals with breaking down the stigma surrounding mental illness. And I started working with them in 2015. I've done a few speaking things for them after that. One was recently in April, went very well. I was on a panel of a mental health conference, and it was an awesome time. Everybody was very inspired and really left that place feeling amazing. It's actually like a few days after that conference, the organization then contacted me again and they let me know that a major news outlet had contacted them to see if they had anybody that they could put like a spotlight on for Mental Health Awareness Month, which is every May. And so they thought of me and contacted me and said, hey, we were, contacted by these producers of this news outlet. And, is this something that you would be interested in? And I mean, I cried
Oh
because
yeah, that's receiving some energy. That's a lot. And you've clearly been working hard on your journey to be able to speak to people and be on a panel and be open and honest about it. And then, it's beautiful. So I'm certainly, cheering for you and I can understand that experience.
thank you. Yeah, it was. I just because I felt it was something that I've really been wanting to and manifesting a maybe a bigger type of platform to be able to speak on and get my message of hope for recovery across to more people. That's really like the only thing that I've been really working on in my personal journey in my life.
There's a sacred reason for that. We'll get to that in Danielle's interview.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, God. Like I really did. I thanked God and my angels, and I was like, this is what I have been praying for. So it turns out that after a lot of no responses and just kind of being told, oh, we're going to do it a little later, and then no more responses again through like emails. At the very last minute, the very end of the month of Mental Health Awareness Month, on Thursday of last week, I did receive an email saying that my interview was canceled because after speaking to me more about my story. They felt that with time constraints that they had for, video, my story was too deep and long and powerful, and they wanted to, do justice to it and share it in the right way and all this, and um saying, hey, looking forward to keeping in touch. And I'd love to, share your story, at some point, in the future. And, all those kind of just like nice words that people use that I feel are to cover up something that you didn't handle properly. That is my honest feeling about it. I was very hurt with the way that it was handled, especially it being Mental Health Awareness Month. That's
Well, you said something to me when we were doing our pre-interview a little bit, chatting about this, about, and I mentioned being trauma informed and when you're in positions of working in mental health and being aware of other things. You said to me like that, you felt like even if this person maybe had some anxiety, then even if they're in a professional position, isn't it important for them to manage it or to communicate with you? And you just kind of highlighted on that. And I thought maybe we could go a little just deeper on that experience, because you have some values and some beliefs and some feelings around that.
Yes. So what wound up coming up for me in all of that was because I did sit with it, and I got that email and I sat on my bed and I cried, and I cried really hard, and I allowed myself to cry those tears and to feel that disappointment and that hurt and that not really understanding. And it brought me to a further place of thought, which was, okay, so how I see it from being like involved for my whole life with anxiety disorder, mental illness, symptoms just completely taking over my life. um I saw it as, hey, if this was something that brought you so much anxiety, like you're in your job, you're working, right? Here's this person, this producer, that's their job, right? And they're in this, and they're so anxious to have to cancel this interview with me that they can't do like go up front with it, and they avoid it until the very last minute, right? And then don't even respond after I message them and say, I don't understand completely, what happened. Could you please, write me back and talk with me about it so I can understand a little bit better what happened and why this came to an end. I feel like then that person is absolutely also in need of assistance with their anxiety if it's bringing them to that point where they are avoiding important conversations that need to happen, because that could be hurtful. And I know I remember I mentioned to you also that my untreated, my unassisted mental disorders, okay, hurt people. They hurt people a lot. And it's not an excuse. I can't ever, nor would I ever say, well, I was mentally ill at the time, so I didn't know what I was doing. Let me tell you something. Yeah, when I went into a mood swing, guess what? I had to just ride it out. Once I was there, I had to ride it out. It had to go. I had to ride it, go its course. And whoever and whatever was in the path of that, well, it got it. So what I'm saying is that it was important for me. That's another reason why it was very important for me to start managing the symptoms that were coming up so that I wasn't just flinging everything at everybody else because I couldn't get myself together.
Mm.
That's not fair. It's not fair to people. And I had to take that responsibility. Okay. So just because I'm mentally ill doesn't mean I'm stupid. And it doesn't mean that I don't know
Mm.
things. Okay. It doesn't mean that I'm just like, oh, well, I have brain damage. So whatever, just let me act how I want. No, not at all. No, take responsibility for that and take care of yourself so you could show up good for everybody else in your life, whether that's a working relationship, a parent child, a grandparent, grandchild, siblings, whatever, coworkers, friends. Okay. So yeah, that's how that's how it read to me, was this person is struggling with their anxiety and with having, having this difficult conversation, because I'm sure she felt terrible. I
I'm
don't.
so like grateful you have that perspective, because think about it in all these, and thank you for sharing this experience with us. Because in all of these human experiences, we have this happen all the time. And so many of us are intuitive and feel into energy, and we're like, we know what's up a little bit, like maybe not all the details, but something, where they're not comfortable speaking that. They need some help with that. They need, some assistance. And mental health is such a huge spectrum and such a big subject, but all of us deal with it. And like you
Yes.
said, every single corner, every sort of relationship, every sort of interaction. This was one where it was an opportunity to be professional while speaking of mental health and treating, and also maybe being trauma informed. Okay, we're interviewing someone who's clearly has said to us, this is sharing my journey about my mental health, things I've been through. And you're saying too, giving peace of mind and proper communication really would have helped you out at that time.
Yeah, that's it. Right. And that's why I think that these conversations are important, and to also show that, like, hey, yeah, I might be somebody with mental illness and I got upset and I got hurt, but I didn't get mad at her. I didn't write her off. I didn't wish her bad. I wasn't, cussing my head off and writing her back in a big, like, what the fuck, bitch? Like, no, like I was able to step back and say, okay, she's dealing with anxiety too. Yes, we're all dealing with something. So, how can we come together as a community, as people for each other, and speak to each other just openly and communicatively and say, you know what, I feel so bad about having to do this, Danielle. And I waited until the last minute because it made me feel so bad. And I'm so anxious about having to even write this email, like, I don't know what to do with myself. Hey, if you'd have said that to me, I'd have been like, hell yeah, girl. Like, I feel you.
Yeah, we're in the feelings. We're on real. Thanks. Okay.
Now, I mean, I already did because yeah, I mean, I already was able to, because I mean, I'm advanced now in my, in my awareness with things. But back then, would I have written her back a very scathing email? I'm pretty sure. I'm not
That's,
going to lie about that.
a perspective and spectrum of our healing journeys and chapters and awareness. And that I
Yes.
think such a beautiful gift to be able to look back and see how far you grew and be like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I would have just lost my shit back then. But now I'm like, okay. And in fact, not only that, you had a bridge into compassion and are like inspired of like, okay, how do people become more empowered and more supported in their workplaces when this happens?
Yes.
Because I was even thinking about that. Like, if she's writing for this producer is writing from a position on behalf of the company she's working for, it's more facts feelings. You're not allowed to say, oh, this is giving me anxiety. But you could just say something of, hey, I was really trying to make this work. This is what happened. My producers came back to me with this. I wish we could move forward with this, but we can't right now, or whatever, in some sort of way that maybe communicated that to you a little differently. And writing back to you, even if it was just I'm so sorry you're hurt and confused by this. I wish I had some more information I could give you. I can't. I want you to know I acknowledge your feelings. And if possible, we will be in touch in the future. Something like that would have helped.
Done.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing, like so many of us too. Like I always think of people like, answering in call centers and different stuff and the things they're fielding and how that can be hard to diffuse. And we're all just humans. You can't
Yeah.
just turn off your human when you're at your job.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, we are just literally like figuring it out as we go along. I've learned that like hardcore. That was a really, really good and big lesson. Was you are figuring out as you go along. You don't know everything. How could you? You're almost even like brand new. Like
I,
I feel
I
like,
call myself an infant all the time.
yes, I'm
Like
like,
the
I
more
feel
I
like
know, the less I know. I'm a
a
baby.
baby brand new thing here. Like what's going on. I'm learning stuff all the time. So and how can you also be I feel like how could you be, you could, it'd be a stupid choice, in my opinion, but how could you be mad at someone for not knowing something they didn't know before they knew it?
which happens all the time in our
Right? I used to
society.
get mad at myself for not knowing something I didn't know before until somebody said that to me. They were like, well,
Yeah,
Danielle, you didn't know that before. How? Well, duh. I was like, oh,
I
yeah.
love it. So, as you can tell, Danielle is using this as an opportunity to inspire her. She had a goal. She was like, well, I wanted to tell my story by the end of Mental Health Awareness Month. We're recording on May 28th today. So we're in the month of May still.
Mhm.
And she was like, well, even if that didn't work out, like this sucks. It's not fun, whatever. But you know what? I have a community. I have people. I can do my own thing. I have my own YouTube channel. Like, let me see what I can do to create this experience for myself because I still had a goal. And that inspired me, obviously. And here we are. And I'm so happy and grateful to be able to have this conversation. So we send them love and growth and health and mental health and all the things, right?
Absolutely. Nothing but love. I'm not
Ah,
upset. Yeah, I'm good here because here we are. I said, listen, I said, how can I turn this into, and that's been one of my major tools that I have learned for myself. It takes practice for sure, just like anything else, but it was like every time something would happen, I would start stopping and asking myself, okay, I know this really hurts right now, but how can you take that and turn it into something beautiful for you? How can
mm,
you do that? And yeah, you do have to sit sometimes and think about it. And sometimes it doesn't come to me for a few days. Sometimes it comes instantly. This one was the angels. I'm not kidding you because I was cat sitting and I was at the cat's house, and trying to process all this. I had just gotten the email and I had to go over there. And then I was like, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I can do my own interview. I think I could just get somebody to interview me and I could talk about the stuff that I wanted to talk about in that interview and maybe even more because I'll have some more time. And and I looked at the clock and it said 4:44 and I was like, thank you.
thank you, angels.
I was like, okay, I got you. And it's when I see things like that at that moment that now I get on it right away. I don't sit and say and question it and say like, oh,
Right?
was that really a sign or I don't know. Like now I'm just like, nope, just
Now
do
you
it.
built the trust, which is a level of ascension and it's a chapter. And we all are skeptical, but no one can feel it for you. No one can feel the tingles, see the 444s, all the things. And like Danielle's saying, like I like to operate too. We trust that shit now. So we're like, oh, here's my sign. Let's move.
Yes, yeah, because the I'll talk a little bit about how I got into the spiritual part of, but yeah, so
Yeah, that'll come in your story.
that's what happened. And so that's why we're here and we are doing this and talking about this. And the other thing, though, I did really want to make very clear is the reason I did this is it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's not about, oh, well, I want to be on, a major news platform and I want to be famous and I want to be seen and known and I want everybody to know my name and that no, it's not about that. I cried that day I got that email because I was like, oh my gosh, could you imagine how many more people's hearts and souls might be able to be touched by hearing a message that I have that I know is very, very sacred and special, that when people hear it, they cry and it changes their life. Why would I not want to share myself in that way to touch others like that? So that's what it's about. It's bigger than me. I'm just a vessel. That's all I am. I'm just a vessel for a message. God uses my voice. It's not
Mhm.
me. I ask before I speak about anything, I always ask that I just be used for the message. It's not about me. It's about all of us collectively. So that's why I'm doing this. And that's why I was like, it's absolutely okay for you to reach out, to Mandy, who has interviewed other people, who likes doing it, is a great calming, perfect guiding energy for it, and make something beautiful and go do it for the people, the world, and for yourself, to show myself that truly that there isn't anything that's going to come my way that is going to break me down. I'm going to build something out of the pieces that fall. So, this is success.
Mm.
And this is recovery in my eyes. And so this is why I'm definitely doing this, and that I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks about. Oh, you asked somebody to interview you? Like, yes, I did.
You
and
sure
this is
did. You had a
and,
goal. You had to meet it.
and
Didn't
this is
work out that way. We'll go this way.
we are showing up for ourselves, and
Mhm.
that's important. So yes.
Well, I'm just again touched and honored and grateful to hold this space with you. And like I said, it was perfect timing to give birth into this new project we're going to do. And
Mhm.
we all deserve to be seen and heard. Doesn't matter what injuries we've been through, what traumas and dramas we've been through, what mental health illness issues we're having, what spiritual issues we're having, what our beliefs are in. We all deserve to be seen and heard and witnessed. And that's something I've always just felt with myself and with others. And I hold so much space for so many people because I see them, in the destructive 3 years of whatever. And then I see
Mhm.
them in the, recovery a few years after that. And I just feel so blessed to be able to see souls and see their evolutions and the consciousness and the things that can happen. And I'm just really grateful that you're willing to reveal and share yours and your journey and what's happened. So let's get started
Let's do it.
and go into Danielle's story a little bit, and particularly, what you wanted to share. So I'll let you take it from here, sister.
All right, you got it. So I don't, here's the thing is I just always want to be mindful to, not, it's not that I want to do any kind of like focus, like, deep focus on, like negative things or the traumas in my life. But it, of course, is always important to mention some of the things that I have sustained, so that it really gives a very clear picture of the before and after, and how sometimes I sit here and I even hear my voice and see myself on the screen going, how in the hell are you still sitting here talking? How are you smiling? How are you happy? Even how do you feel
Yeah.
joy? How do you even feel joy?
So this
um
is your trigger warning, people. Get ready,
yes.
saddle up. We're going raw and real here, and there may be some things that trigger you, and it will be intense at times
Yes, there are some things, yeah,
with doses of love.
oh, a lot of love. Oh my God, I overflow with love. I don't even know where to put it sometimes.
That's why I had to call it out. It's just there. I feel you. Because I believe love is our ultimate force. It's our ultimate healing balm. It's the ultimate thing that comes through. And as we
Yeah,
heal, as we progress, we have our ups and downs. And even on our shittiest days, there's still a grace of love somewhere, even
it's
if it's just
so
taking a sip
nice.
of water for yourself
It's
or
so
something.
true. I have the same I always, everywhere I go, I'm like, guys, it's love. Like, if you didn't know what was like one of the ultimate healing things, promise you it's love. I tell everybody that. And they're like, but I don't understand. I'm like, I know, I didn't
I
either.
didn't either. It just clicks one day in your beautiful
Yeah,
divine journey. We hold
yeah.
space and send love.
Yes, and you're like, oh, this is love. Oh, this is love. Da, 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 da. So
Which is how Danielle was brought into this world
that's
via the energy of love in
of
whatever
love.
way that was. And her last name actually means little flower, which is beautiful.
It
And
does.
so I just think that we should start with your journey and your highs and lows, and we'll just see where we get.
All right. So yes, I was born a little flower, and I have two brothers and a mom and a dad. Now I'm the middle child, and growing up was wonderful. I have so many amazing childhood memories. We actually have a kind of special situation in our family, that I haven't come across really anywhere else. And everyone always used to be so very interested about it, which was my mom and my dad. Okay. They had three kids, my aunt and my uncle Mario and Aunt Joanne, they had three kids. But now my uncle Mario and my mom are brother and sister. and my Aunt Joanne and my dad are brother and sister. So, and they all had kids around the same time. So like my mom and my Aunt Joanne were always like pregnant around the same time. They had two girls on the end and a boy in the middle. Me and my cousin Michael, who's in the middle, you would think we're twins. We like, even as kids, a kid picture twins, we look like twins. So we grew up, I actually grew up in a very big family. So it was like having 6 siblings and 4 parents. Like we did everything together every
I was
weekend.
gonna say that's like the definition of like close knit.
Yes, it was, I mean, we just, that was it. We were attached at the hip. We did everything together. We had all our sleepovers, but you know, every weekend we went to church, everything. It was great. It was great growing up, like feeling like you had that many siblings and, you know, and all those parents, and a lot of fun, a lot of barbecues. And of course, and my dad came from a family of, he has 6, there's 6 of them. So very big Italian family. My mom just has 1 brother. So just small on that side. But my grandmother actually has a lot of siblings as well. Although I only met 1 of them. But anyway, so very, very happy childhood. I just remember just a lot of fun. And I think, you know, things started to get a little wacky in the family unit when my older brother started to get into some trouble. You know, he, for whatever reason, was born with something, I'm not really sure. He was upset when I was born. He was 5. So little girl comes along and everyone's fawning over this, you know, little girl. And he had a very hard time adjusting to that. And so, you know, and my mom was, you know, noticing, you know, like that he was having a hard time and he was trying to actually like do things to harm me as a baby. You know, and so she was trying to talk to the doctors, you know, about it all and, you know, what's going on. And they're like, yeah, I mean, he's just having a hard time, you know, adjusting to the new sibling after being, you know, the only one for 5 years. And so that actually is, believe it or not, what started some of my trauma as a child, because growing up with him, because he never did quite adjust to that. I unfortunately, you know, there was just a lot of abuse that happened, you know, in that time. And he got drug addicted, alcohol addicted, and in trouble with the police a lot, you know. So he went through his own, you know, he has his own story and he has an amazing story. He's been sober for about 30 years now, completely sober, like 100%. I mean, he doesn't use anything. And he works for a rehab center where he helps you know, other young people get into rehab and recovery. And you know, he's done really, really amazing things. And I'm really, really proud of him today. I
Just
just,
shout out to your family and your lineage and all the things, because that's rare and that's
yeah,
cool. And you
I,
know, like doesn't mean there wasn't damage or this or that or things didn't occur, but talk about a soul who's willing to try to
yeah,
shift it.
I mean, he really, he pushed through some really, really deep demons. I mean,
Badass.
you know, and he really is, he's somebody to admire, you know, today. Interesting is that we still don't have a relationship today. We don't talk, and you know, there's still a little bit of, you know, stuff that's unhealed, but it's gotten better. There isn't, it's not anywhere what it used to be. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a place where, you know, you can, you know, be in the same space together, you know, and everyone can, you know, for the most part, get along. And, you know, maybe there might be a little like comment or a tiff here and there, but it's like, whatever. It's just like your normal, you
Yeah,
know.
that's true holding space. Like when you don't have a true, you know, active relationship with someone, when you're not, you know, talking to them, you know, or things, but you're able to go. Ram Dass, I say it all the time, has a famous quote: "You think you're healed, you think you're woke, you think you're awakened. Go spend a week with your family," and that's really the truth of it all comes out. And for you, what you're saying is you can love, you can respect, you can cheer on, you can admire. You even use the word admire from afar and have healthy boundaries and respect that maybe that relationship isn't woven in the everyday and the communicating. However, you can go and you can literally hold space with peace. That's huge. And that's healing for groundbreaking, and we'll get into the spiritual part of it, but for your lineage.
Yeah, it
Thank you for
was.
doing that and sharing that. And you guys all get into your own, as I know it's not easy to get to that point.
It's not. And and also, I mean, I think that it's important to note in that, in talking about that, that when you have parents, right, and they see their kids not getting along, that's also very painful for them. And they do try to understand, and they do see clearly some of the things that are happening, and they know, like, hey, I know that that's wrong, and but they still, of course, would like to see their family be together, and so that's been very hard on my mom. I know that, and so that's something that I wanted to take into consideration was, my mom's feelings, about her children, and she loves her children, and just wants to see the best for them, and wants to see them in love. So that also is a big reason why I definitely was like, I'm going to continue to look in the mirror at myself and see how I can recalibrate some things within me to be able to have that space. So that's, yes, that it's always about working on me. It's always about looking in the mirror. I have to, it's me, it's only me that can control my reactions and actions to things. So
All we got, right, baby? The
it
only
is.
relationship you have your whole life is the one with yourself. And that's the only one we have the opportunity to truly, truly work on.
Yes. So so that's okay now, but growing up, I mean, it was hard because I didn't understand how you don't understand that you're this little kid and you're like, why does this person hate me so much? Like they literally want me dead. Like he would threaten to kill me. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
fucking kill
sure.
you, you little bitch,
Yeah.
and I just, and then it was interesting too, because looking back, there was also that coming back and crying to me like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I did that, please forgive me, I won't do it again, I won't do it again. And then it would happen again, and then the comeback, and just that cycle, so
Cycle of abuse.
that's what I learned at a very, very young age, my whole entire growing up childhood. So my dad was, he was my protector. And my dad, I was the only girl too. So, it's just, let's just say it. That's just how it goes, right? It's like the moms with their boys and the dads with their girls. And, like, I mean, yeah, everybody usually, but there's just like that special bond, and so dad was my protector. We were very close. We bonded. I mean, there's pictures of me as a baby. I mean, just I would always fall asleep on his chest because I could hear his heartbeat, and I'm pretty sure that is why I would fall asleep immediately. I think that's why any baby falls asleep on somebody's chest, because they can hear the heartbeat. And it's
Oh
like
yeah.
that like steady drum, still to this day, if I put on a heartbeat on YouTube, like if I can't sleep and I'm feeling restless or whatever, and you can go on YouTube and you can find a heartbeat, I put it on, I'm like, I'm out.
I love that. Instant womb stimulation.
Yes.
Back in the cradle.
Yes. So, and it works like a charm. Why?
And
Because
reminds you of your own heartbeat.
yes, and it's beautiful, right? I also learned, and I know you're into drum circles too. I love the drum circles, and when I started going to drum circles, and I learned that actually the beating of the drum is is the like symbol of the heartbeat, which is what we all is the very first thing we ever hear,
Mm.
is that right? So if we're doing the drums in like those steady kind of beats and stuff like that, it's bringing us back to that very, very first sound of life. So it's like, I don't know, for me, that just gets me all riled up.
I feel you. And we had a drum circle recently, and I was talking to our beautiful friend Bob about it. And I was like, I've always just been a heartbeat person. If there's a beat or a heart to it, like I can do that. And like, even with drumming, like I end up just being the one that's like, I'm like, I'm probably boring. Everybody's probably like, whatever. And then I'm like, and then Bob's like, he's like, no, we need that. And like people need that. I'm like, it's true.
It's
And I
true.
love that. I love that frequency because it's healing and it's beautiful. And like you said, the first thing we hear, which is so amazing.
Yeah. So learn that. So yeah.
So here
So
comes baby Danielle. Everything was pretty good
yep.
till our big brother put in our cycle of abuse, and here comes the conditioning with that. And I've been through that with my own family members and different things. And so
Yep.
many people tuning into this are gonna have, a similar experience in a different way. So you got all that. So that
Yep.
messed us up for a little while,
A little
right?
while. Yeah.
Us
We had a
off our
little bit
path.
rough time. And me and my younger brother, we were actually really close in age, like 18 months apart. And my mom said, like, as soon as he was born, I was like, oh, that's my baby, and like I just took care of him, and like I spoke for him. I knew what he needed, what he wanted. I was always going to her. I was like, Mom, James need to get changed. Mom, James wants Cheerios. He would never talk because I did everything for him. But we grew up very close. We had same friends. We did theater together. We sang together. We would dress up. We would perform songs from like Les Miserables. Like we loved Broadway. Like we knew like all the Broadway songs and shows. And me and James started getting involved with a kids theater group. And every summer we would go do a show with them, and they taught you all about how a show would get put together. Like we would do our own scenery. We would all paint our own scenery. We would help with costumes. We would, so everything, we got to see how the whole show got put together, so that, and then we were learning, that if we wanted to go out into that business, that we were educated, on how a show was put up. And it was wonderful. I mean, doing theater, growing up in theater as a child and as a teenager, I feel absolutely helped me be a well-rounded individual. I got to express myself creatively, and I just honestly feel, I do want to touch on that, because I feel like when we stifle everybody's creativity, because I've been going around, I don't know where people get this idea from. They're like, oh, well, you're so creative. Like, oh, I'm not creative. I'm like, no, stop saying that, please, because you are limiting yourself. You are creative. You're just not creative in the same way that I am.
We've given it too much of a definition. Even I went
Yes.
through that. I was like, oh, I can't paint. I can't, which I actually probably could if I tried, but I realized my creativity was like in fundraisers and parties,
Exactly.
jobs and different things. And like, and even I love to write, but my writing's less creative, more like potent factual experience things, which still can go in the creative category. So I love that you're bringing this up, because it's something that we all deserve to redefine. And literally in the womb space, I work with women, we do womb healing all the time. And the womb is a place where we not only create and give birth to life, but we hold all of our fear and our pain. So if we're holding all this fear and pain there, we're not able to give birth to our creative energy, which is what you're highlighting right now.
Yes, without a doubt. And I honestly, like, if you can just let that like free within yourself, I mean, it's just there's so much more like that you don't even know about yourself. You're like, oh, I can do that. Like you wouldn't know unless you really like tried it. I finger painted the other day. Okay. I've never finger painted on a canvas before. And it was like an abstract kind of thing. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, that actually looks like a scene out in freaking nature that I would go out and see. I didn't know I could do that. I just was upset that day. I was really, really upset that day. And I actually messaged Lexi. I was like, whoa. I'm like, whoa. And she was like, I feel like you need to finger paint. And I was like, okay. And like,
our girl.
Yeah, I said, okay. Because she has been sharing with us about, that she's been doing like some art therapy stuff. And, I'll talk a little bit about, but anyway, I did it. And I was like, I had this little mini canvas. It was this big from the Dollar Tree, and I just pulled out my little Dollar Tree paints, and I just did a little. It took me, I think, like 5 minutes, and I was just like, wow, I can't even believe I did that, and I look at it now and I feel very reminded now every day of, oh, remember when you were really upset and you did that finger painting and then it like came out actually okay, it came out good. Now if you looked at it and you thought it looked like shit, that's okay too. Guess what, it still helped me though.
And
Is
I was just gonna say, it transmuted your feelings in 5 minutes.
yes,
That's the biggest part. That's the whole purpose of it. And we do that. We hold in our tears. We hold in our anger for days and days and days. We don't process it. When a lot of times you just need a 5 minute cry, a 5 minute finger paint, whatever it is.
right,
All of a
that's
sudden you're
it.
like, oh shit, I just acknowledged and transmuted and moved it.
I want to touch on that a little bit because I used to think that if I let my emotions out, like if I used to think that if I started crying, I wouldn't be able to stop. And that's what would make me hold it in. I would get so afraid that I would just be crying and crying and crying for like weeks. And I'm like, but I have stuff to do. Like I can't just be crying all the time, right?
So
And
many people, particularly men, this is a really big thing to bring up.
the men,
They do that. They won't start crying because they're afraid they won't stop.
yeah,
So many
yeah.
people in general, but men in particular with
And
that. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
yes, and I realized, I mean, I just did it one day. I was just like, fuck it, like just fucking cry. Just please let yourself just cry. And you know what? The first time I did cry for a little while. It wasn't just 5 minutes, but you know what? It's because I had all that stuff that I didn't let out in those little increments that was so built up. So yeah, I needed like
Had to
probably like,
release the dam, big
yeah,
flush. It's like
it's
opening up a
true.
pool for summer, you know?
That's exactly what it was like. It was like, "Roar," and I was like, see, I was right. I'm never gonna stop crying. And then I was like, then I stopped crying and I'm like, you are so dramatic. Like, really? Come on.
There is that like after the void and everything comes in, you're like, whoa. And then I love the way we talk to ourselves a little bit like, oh, did we need to be that dramatic while we went through it, you
Right,
know?
exactly. Yeah. So
But it's true, and it's so scary that first time, and I'm glad we're bringing it up, and it's so scary to sometimes let ourselves go there, but it's truly healing waters, and you come to trust. Like, for me, I know if a feeling comes up, I give myself, a few minutes to go cry about it, like, it might be a minute, it might be 10, it might be longer, it might be a morning, but it's so much shorter than it used to be for me when I
yes.
used to hold it in, and there was a good 5 years that I didn't cry when I was younger, so I understand that, and it's
Hmm.
scary and not easy, but like Danielle's sharing, it can be so transmutive once we start to embrace it. And it gets
Yeah.
shorter each time. You get much quicker at transmuting your feelings and honoring them as they just come up in the moment. And then they're not creating active trauma and drama for you.
That is it. Yes. And that is the idea of the changing from your emotions controlling you and you being in control of your emotions, because we all have emotions, we just have them. Nobody not
Yeah.
has emotions. It's not, so it's that's become the big difference for me. And there's one thing that I would tell my mom, she's right about today, which I would of course tell her like, leave me alone, shut up all the time. And she would be like, Danielle, you just need to learn how to control your emotions, And I would yell at her and I'd be like, don't you tell me I need to feel my emotions, But I was not, I was halfway right. Yes, I need to feel my emotions. This is true. But I also did need to get in a little bit of control of them so that they were not controlling my life and making me miserable. That was the difference.
And in those moments, because I've done that with my mom, we've all done that with people. That's not what you want to hear in that moment, of course. Of course, it's, they're just trying to love you and like set you free from your own emotions, but you're like, but I don't know how. Like,
Right.
and all this stuff comes in with it. So that's a whole secret journey in itself. And I'm glad you brought light to it.
Yeah. So I mean, so doing the theater was really helpful for me. I loved it. I started actually singing in church. When I was a little girl, I in the congregation, and mom had her tambourine, and we would, I sing all the songs, and then I joined the church choir with the adults, and I would do. Then I started getting up and doing special music, which was once a month. I would pick a song by a Christian artist, and I would, practice it and learn it, and I would my dad would take me to the Christian bookstore where I would get the instrumental tape,
Oh, cool.
cassette tape, and then
Yeah.
I would get up on the stage once a month at my congregation in church, and I would sing a song for them. And it was like one of my favorite things to do as a child was doing those once a month songs. I still till this day, I absolutely love Christian music. I just I don't know, it just does something to my soul and my spirit. I had we had a not good uh experience with the church that we were in, and we left that church. I am not in organized religion anymore. There was a lot of bad things that were going on in that church that were brought to light, just like a lot of other churches. Very, very sad stuff. Just really, really sad stuff. But I struggled a lot with, I was like, oh, well, I can't have God anymore. Like God doesn't exist anymore now because I'm not in this church. And I went away from God. But I didn't realize that I could still have my faith and I could still have a relationship with God. And I didn't need a building. I didn't need
You're
a
not
church.
taught that. It's not your fault, but you do get to figure it out if you're lucky.
Right. Yes, we weren't taught. So yes, again, go
Gospel
and figure.
music moves the shit out of me. And I'm like, yes, I'm the golden thread that weaves through all, like, and and if I feel, even if it's tribal African spiritual music, you feel the spirit coming through and
Oh
people
yeah.
are channeling, experiencing. So I'm picking up what you're putting down. And I'm so proud that, you allowed it to still move you and be with you. And then also thank you for sharing, because I think that's a big part of especially light workers or journeys and figuring out the whole, spiritual part of it. So I'm glad we're
Yes.
at this part.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, as a child, I went to church and had fun. I went to Sunday school. I sang songs. I, did vacation Bible school and played with my friends. And, so, you don't know when you're a kid. You don't. And I only found out just from as I got older from my mom telling me why we actually left the church. I didn't know that until I was in my 20s, so because she didn't want to I don't even think she knew how to talk to her kids, about that stuff, so and then it made sense why all the other people, well, a lot of other of her, female friends within the church also had left the church as well, then of course I was like, oh my God, well, of course it all makes sense now, and why a lot of people had gotten divorced from their husbands, and so yeah, a lot of trauma there with that, because yeah, then you like I said, you're part of this community, right? You're just all my life, and then all of a sudden everybody's gone, right? Because you've left and now you don't have those relationships really anymore. So a lot of loss that in my young years too, which really left an impact on me. The biggest one was when my dad died. At the time when my dad died, here's what was going on. My older brother, like I had mentioned, had a lot of problems with substance abuse and criminal activities, and they sent him. He went to a facility in Pennsylvania for a while. He was there, and from there, he was. They decided that because there was two younger children in the house, that it was not okay for him, and what he was going through at the time, it wasn't safe for him to return to the house with us there. And so they sent him to a rehab in Florida. And so he never even came home, I don't even think. They just sent him right there. And he actually stayed there. He never moved back to New Jersey. So he's been there for, I guess, 30 years now. But so that had happened. He was gone. And also in that same year, my parents were getting a divorce after like 21 years of being married. My dad, they were separated, but still living together in the house. And so my older brother was away, and me and my younger brother James were still in the house. They were just, if they talked to each other, they were fighting, or they didn't speak at all. Whoever got to the bed first slept in the bed, the other slept in the couch. Like, this is just how it was. And then me and James had just gotten to the point where we literally were like yelling at them to please get divorced, because like we just couldn't even, like, we didn't want to live like this anymore.
Yeah. A lot of kids do that
Yeah, we were
with
like,
their parents. Yeah.
stop it, like stop it. We don't need, like, we know this needs to happen, and like it's all good. Just do, we don't care. Like, we love you, but just stop.
I was stoked the day my parents got divorced and we
Yes, right.
officially done. Yep.
I mean, it's
We
not
literally
like,
had to fly on a plane halfway across the world, and I was like,
yeah,
this is what we needed.
right. I mean, it just, because it just, not that, I mean, I was, of course, like, I'm sorry, this is how it came to, but like, now that we're here, can we please just, like, for everybody's sake,
And kids are in tune, they know. And of course, they want their parents to love each other and be, together, but they also can be in tune much quicker than adults a lot of times to toxic energy.
Yes, absolutely. And, it was hard to watch all that, there's stuff that I know that went on that I'm not even exactly sure
Yeah.
when happened or what, but all I know is that my dad wound up with a new girlfriend. And then that put like a lot of even more like very hard stuff into the mix. And, you know, uh, when my parents' divorce was final, they did, move out. My dad wound up buying my mom out of the house. She went to get a apartment right close by. The court appointed that me and my brother James were old enough, because I was 13 and he was 12. We were old enough to decide where we wanted to live. They let us decide. They were not
Okay.
going to let anybody decide that for us. And so I chose to stay with my dad, and James went with my mom. And that caused a whole other problem, because mom felt very rejected. Mom, felt like my daughter hates me. She doesn't love me. She doesn't want to be anywhere near me. And it wasn't that. It was that our relationship was very difficult because of issues that they were having, and we weren't separating though. Like, it wasn't being separated between me and my mom. Everything was just being, jumbled together. And I was hurting. I was being hurt through that. And I didn't want, I was like, I can't, and I
You were a
chose,
kid too.
yeah. And I
And
chose
that
to,
is the hard part. It's like you want kids to have a decision, you want them to have an opportunity, but also how is this energetically, this decision and having them make this decision going to affect them and the others? Like
yeah.
I get that. It's a hard one.
Yeah, it was. It was, and I mean, she also had very, she had genuine like concerns of like, oh, my dad worked in the city, so he commuted on the train, which meant that like, coming home, like he had to leave really early for work. And then coming home, sometimes he wouldn't get home till like 7 p.m., and my mom thought that that was, I shouldn't be left alone, like after school that long for him to get home from work. But a lot of times after school, because James was my brother and my best friend, I would just take the bus with him to, my mom's apartment and hang out with him, after school. And then like she would drive me back, to the house. I thought that that was okay. But she was like, oh, well, then why wouldn't you just live with me? You know what I mean? But like, so there was just like always that conflict there about it. Like me think, I was just trying to compromise and give,
I was gonna say, it
both.
sounds like
I
you
was trying
ended
to
up
give both
splitting
parents,
custody
yeah.
pretty nicely. Yeah, managing that yourself as a 13-year-old.
Right. So I was trying, yeah, even at that age, I was trying to make both parents happy,
Yep,
the best that I could.
you
And
did. You did the best you could in that
yeah.
moment.
So
and maintained your relationship with your brother at that time.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, then uh, when I was younger, I didn't get too much into like drugs and drinking and stuff. Like, it's funny, I was actually the one that was like I wouldn't even speak like the word cocaine. Like, I was like, oh no, like that's a bad word.
Oh
Like
yeah, I went through the DARE program. I was like sober. I was the DD for everybody. I created a whole
yeah.
program called Refuse to Use that still exists. There's a whole thing that I was like that too. Now I use
Mm-hmm.
now, we talk about it openly on Sea Goddess. I use cannabis as a support for my healing and my journey, my pain relief and things I've been through. But I always thought it was the devil, the worst thing ever. And my
Right.
experience came in with that later. I experimented a tiny bit as a teen, but mostly I didn't really explore that. So I was like 25. So I can feel you on that a little bit, and things coming in later, as opposed to so many people we know that really experience that as a teen and younger too. And we all
Yeah.
have our different experiences.
That's right. That's the thing, is it is so different for everybody, because yeah, it was like, the kids were, all sneaking smoke cigarettes and, all kinds of, and I was like, I don't know. That's stupid, guys. Like, don't do that, and also because I saw what my brother had been going through. And, it's like, they found us like a weighing scale in the bathroom and like little baggies. And, he was like cutting school and going into New York to like try to sell and, make money and, like all kinds of stuff like that. So like, I saw all this stuff and I was like, guys, like, just don't do it. It's not worth it, but, and then, for me, that's like the most crazy part to me about my story, is that for me to wind up one of the biggest coke heads that I ever knew in my life just absolutely
Blew your own
blows
mind.
my, yes.
Didn't see myself going here. No pun intended.
And that is why I was like, you never say never. Because I would walk around going,
I will never say never either. I've learned that.
Yeah, I was like, because I literally walked around my whole entire younger, I was like, I'll never, ever do drugs. I will never do drugs. And then what happened was, see, I bring that up because I was thinking about me and my younger brother, like he smoked some pot with his friends, and occasionally, I think maybe like a handful of times, I did a little bit with him, but like I said, never got into any of that. As a teenager, I mostly like, I drank a little bit, maybe at like a cast party that somebody was throwing after a show. Underage drinking, never good. Just gonna say that, like, but you know, that was probably the darker side of the theater. Is you do have to be careful when you're a parent with your children being in theater. There's adult stuff that goes on, and it might not be a great idea to let, your underage child, because I was in mixed casts, like I was young, but there was adults in the cast too, like there, because there was all different parts.
Yeah.
So, being a child in an adult, community theater cast, you do have to be, I feel like you should be discerning, and I mean, I went wild. Me and James went a little wild sometimes, at cast parties, drinking. And my mom let us have cast parties sometimes at the house. And, um, we were allowed to take sips of our parents' wine and beer at Christmas, Easter, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't really ever seem like a big deal. But looking back, maybe it's not a big deal in the moment, but what you don't know, what you don't always know, is that if that person is susceptible to addiction, you don't know that. So if you're putting those substance in a young person, and they can get that feeling of like complete euphoria, and then they're like, whoa, what is this? And then when they feel icky and they take that sets that into their system, and they're like, oh, when I drink a sip of this, I immediately feel better. And that's sometimes how then the addiction can start happening. And if we're just not careful and not teaching, how to responsibly use these things. I do understand kids break into liquor cabinets. I get it. We have parties, we do stuff. I get it. But I also wasn't, I know for sure I wasn't ever really sat down and spoken to about and shown everything about alcohol, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of different facets to it. Okay,
And
there.
as a society, we're still kind of just breaking ground on that. Even through this whole
Yes.
COVID chapter, everything's closed. Everything's closed. But don't worry,
Except,
liquor store's still open. We'll deliver. There's
mhm,
a reason and there's a programming around that too. And
mhm.
it's
Yeah.
hard, but talking about this brings light to it.
Yeah, so I wasn't, I didn't know, and I don't think, and I think I didn't know because my parents didn't know. Like,
Right.
it was not that
It
anybody
was
was
very
doing it.
normal. It was very extra acceptable. They smoked while they were pregnant. They
Yep,
had cocktails. Like it was a different time.
it
Even
was,
though it was
yeah.
only a few years ago in my world, I'm 37. I don't know how old you are at this time, but it's really not long at all.
42, so we're not
Yeah.
that far. Yeah. Yeah, so, and so it's not that I'm not talking about any of this as in saying, like, oh, I can't believe, they didn't do this and they didn't know
Yeah.
that. And it's not has nothing to do with that. Like we have spoken before about how, our parents, we have a very good understanding that our parents did the best with what they had and with what they knew. And I always say too that, my parents have their own story, and their own traumas that they sustained, that they were never taught or given space to heal that. So they're just trying to figure out how to do their life with what they have, with not getting any help. They didn't get help. My mom didn't get help for her stuff. She doesn't know, you know what I mean? Like, I'm blessed because I have the help, and knowledge that I do now, and that's where then I can help my family, by leading through that example, by doing the work. Do I sometimes get pissed off? Like, okay, guys, can you do some work too? Like, can you do it too?
Only in
Something,
their divine timing.
right? I never like say that. I'll just
We
sit
know
there and
it.
be like, I'm like, I'm tired. Can you help me?
Well, and that's just it too. When it's a gift. You get gifted with that perspective. You get to zoom out and see, oh, if we all just kind of did this, it might work well together. But you can lead the horse
But
to water, but you can't make it drink. And it can be
exactly.
frustrating. But that's where you can use more creative. You can't
Oh
have,
yeah.
you can't have
Yes.
passion without anger.
I'm very much better about that now. I'm like, I know you're doing your thing, you're doing great. We're all doing.
And so many people who are going to tune into this are right there right now or have been there. Like we all, we feel that as
Yeah.
humans, so show.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of it does, even it just comes from a place of like, dude, I know that you can just feel so much better. Like, that's
Yeah.
all I
I
know.
just want
Like,
freedom and peace for you.
for free. Like, it's for free. You can do it. You can have it too, like, so it really does come a lot. So it's not, I've noticed my frustration about that comes definitely just from wanting other people to experience what I have been able to, knowing that that is true for not only me, but for so many others that have had some freedom, so that's really what it's about. And then I don't get, too down on myself for being frustrated, because I know it's coming from a place of concern. And I don't
Totally.
ever want to tell anybody, like what to do, or I just want to
And you
encourage.
sat there, which we're going to get some more of that in your journey. You sat there at times. We've all sat there when we were
Yeah.
reminded of things. And that's where you were at the cast parties and what was coming in for you at that time.
Yeah. So I going through all that, and I had already had started getting a little bit of a unhealthy relationship with, substances, the drinking mainly. And then you know also at the time, and at that time I was, I just want to go back a little bit, because this
Sure.
is this is really where this is just where everything changed. I was doing Okay, it was the year 1996. I was a freshman in high school. And that year I was going to be turning 16. So we were planning my Sweet 16 party. My dad had a friend, Artie, who was the owner of this ballroom in town. And it was my dream to have my Sweet 16 party there. So he went to Artie and he set it all up and he's like, I got the room, you're all set. He made it happen. And I was so excited. Mom took me for my dress. I got my just beautiful maroon velvet dress with this, like pearls. And I sang I was like, I want to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow at my party. And because at the time, I mean, my favorite movie was Wizard of Oz, and I watched it so much that I could repeat every Dorothy line. I had every inflection of her voice. Like, I was like, I'm Judy Garland, reincarnated, here I am. And I mean, I studied her, and one of the community theaters was doing the Wizard of Oz. And so I was like, oh, I'm auditioning. And my dad took me to the audition and I got the part of Dorothy. And I actually have my CD of it right over here on my shelf. What a great show. And so I got the part. The show was good. I started rehearsing. The show was going to go up, I think, in like February or something like that. I can't remember. My birthday's in January. Now, November 9th comes, okay? I was in performance for a different show at the time. I had just, like auditioned for the other show because the rehearsals weren't going to start to the beginning of the year. But I was in a community theater show called Little Me at the theater is actually right around the corner from the house I live in now. But this was the first community theater show I had ever done. I was in the ensemble, did a lot of dancing. It was an amazing experience. And I woke up, Friday night, I went to the show. My dad dropped me off at the theater, and then he talked to somebody about like, give me a ride home. And then he left and went back home. Me and my brother were in the show together. We did the performance. I went home and my dad was asleep on the couch in the living room. He always fell asleep on the couch. And so I let him know I was home. It was a little late, like 11:30. Let him know I was home. I gave him a kiss, good night. I said, I love you, Dad. And I went up to my room and I went to bed. When you do a show in a community theater, it's usually like it runs for 2 weekends, and usually it's like a Friday night show, a Saturday night show, and then a Sunday matinee. So, the next day was going to be Saturday, and we had a show that night. So I slept in. I was exhausted. It takes a lot of energy to do a 2-hour dancing show.
Yeah.
And you're all in costumes and makeup and, all that lights, and you're just exhausted. So I had slept in that day till about like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I remember my dad had told me that he had a dentist appointment Saturday morning. So when I got up, I wasn't really expecting him to be there. Yeah, I didn't remember what time his appointment was, but I didn't really expect him to be home yet. But I got up, and so he wasn't there. And I was just like kind of walking around, blah blah, whatever, doing my thing, get some water. And I noticed that there was a message on the answering machine, and I pressed play because back then we didn't have these things. We had phones on the wall with cords.
We sure did. Landlines.
Yes, our landlines with our answering machines. And so when I played the message, it was from my great aunt Phyllis, who she was a receptionist at a dentist office, and all of us went to that dentist office, all the kids, all the parents. And it was Aunt Phyllis on the message, and she was like, hey Joe, it's Aunt Phil, and you had your appointment this morning, but you didn't show up, so I was just wondering if maybe you forgot about it. If so, that's okay. We can reschedule. I just wanted to make sure, everything's okay. And I thought that that was odd. I was like, oh, he didn't show up. Like, he never just like not shows up to things, or forgets stuff like that. It's just kind of like not in his nature. So I just kind of like started walking around the house, and I like peeked out the window. And that's when my heart sank, because his car was in the driveway. And I thought to myself, well, if he didn't get it, his car is here. Well, where would he be? Like, how would he's not at the dentist. My aunt called and said he's not there. His car is here. He wasn't the type of person to go like out walking, like for a walk. It wasn't like he went for, I'm like, he had a dentist appointment. He's supposed to be at his dentist appointment. So then I start to worry, because I'm in my gut. I'm like, I'm just don't understand. Nothing's making sense now. And so I'm walking around the house, and I'm like, Dad, I'm like calling him. I opened the back door. We had a nice fenced in backyard. I opened the back door. I go outside on the patio. I'm standing there. I'm just looking around. I walk around the right side of the house. There's nothing there. And then I come around the left. And there's a gate that opens, and then there's the driveway had been paved up to that part of the fence, and then it went all the way down. And I walked around in front of the garage to go to the front door, and that's when I saw that the downstairs bathroom light was on. And I was like, is he in the bathroom? I was like, no. He would have heard me calling him, right? So I walk in the front door, and the bathroom door was like behind the front door. So like when you walk in the front door, it opens like this. And then right here is the bathroom door. And that's where the window was facing me this way from the porch, and I could see it was on. So I was like, all right. I knock on I tried to open it, but I was locked. There was a lock on the downstairs door. So I try to open it, it's locked, and I'm like, oh no. So I start like knocking on the door, and I'm like, Dad, and I'm calling for him, and I don't hear anything. So I'm like, well, now at the time, I'm 15 years old. I don't know what to do. I don't really know what's going on. I know that I feel worried. I feel like something is not right. And I feel like my dad's in the bathroom, and I can't get to him. So I go to the phone, and I called his girlfriend, and I was like, T, my dad is in the bathroom, but he's not answering me, and the door is locked, and I don't know how to get to him. And she was like, well, then you have to break the door down. And I was like, well, break the door down? How am I going to do that? Right? I'm like, oh no. So this is I have to say, this is the most incredible part of this story, because there was really no way for me to get that door open. I swear. But I went down to that door, and I stood there like this. I was so scared. And I was like, because I didn't even know what I was going to see behind the door either. So I'm standing there, and I'm like, and I went like this, and I took my foot, and I was like, and I just like kicked it really little. And I was like, I don't even know. And the door came flying open. Like, I was like, holy shit. I didn't open that door. I will tell you that right now. I did not open that door. The door comes flying open. And what I see is my dad was on his knees, and his head was face down on the garbage pail. He had hit his face on the garbage pail. He wore glasses, and his glasses broke and cut his face. And he was kneeling. He had his pants down to his knees, he was going to the bathroom and had a massive heart attack and just fell forward off of the toilet bowl and died instantly. I didn't know that at the time that that's what happened, but I just knew that my dad was like on his hands and knees and his face was bleeding and I didn't know what happened. And so I ran up to the phone, and I was like, I was like, I got the door open, but dad's on the floor and he's not responding. And she's like, you have to keep calling him. He will recognize your voice. He will hear your voice. Keep calling him. And so and she said, and call the ambulance. And I was like, no, he hates ambulances. He's going to get so mad at me. Because my dad, he had epilepsy. When he was a teenager, he had a severe head trauma. And ever since then, he had grand mal seizures. I'd seen him have so many seizures. And he was on like 2 different seizure medications. And sometimes he would forget to take his medications and then he would have a seizure. Like he had a lot of seizures, and they were saying that by him having so many seizures also weakened his heart. One day he was 45 years old and he just was gone. Like I didn't, but at the moment I didn't know that I think in my heart it was like I knew, but I still was like, but maybe if we get people here and if they could help them, they could revive them or something, like maybe there's time. So I did call the ambulance, and then I called around the corner. We had people that went to our church that were our neighbors and very, very good friends of ours. And I called Sandra, and she happened to be having lunch with Michelle, who was also part of our congregation. And I told her what happened, and she was like, okay, we're going to come over right away. So they came over just to be with me there, so I wasn't alone, because my mom and my younger brother, they were at a rehearsal for a show that my brother was in that Saturday during the day. So they couldn't even call my mom. We didn't have cell phones back then. You know what I mean? So literally it was like one of those, the police have to go and find your people, where they are. They get the address and everything. So my aunt, my dad's baby sister, she also lived about 15 minutes away with my cousins, the whole cousin and parent thing. They lived real close. So the neighbors came over first, and then the ambulance came, and he told me I had to wait outside on the porch. And we did try calling my dad. When Sandra and Michelle came, Sandra went in and she tried calling, Joe, they tried getting me to go back in and call him again. So then when the ambulance got there, he was like, well, you can't go back in the house now, in case of foul play or anything. I'm like, what? I don't understand. I'm 15. Who fucking says that? So I don't know what that means. So I'm standing out there, and this guy comes out, and he was like, oh, can I talk to you for a minute? And I was like, sure. And he took me to the side of the garage on the driveway. And he was like, well, I just wanted to let you know that your dad is dead. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, are you joking? I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, and I was like, no. I was like, that's not true. And he was like, ma'am, I'm sorry. He was like, but your dad died. He passed away. We couldn't bring him back. And I was like, what? I don't even, what do you do with that? You're the person that was your best friend, and was helping you grow and become who you were as a person and support your music and your singing and your just was not there anymore. He was just gone. And to have something taken away like that out of nowhere is just, you can't wrap your brain around that in the moment. There's no way. So I just kept going. Like, I just kept going to school. I kept doing shows. I was like nonstop. And I was in shock for a year, for real, like for real shock. I and then after that year, I'll never forget, I felt that moment that it actually hit me, that my dad wasn't coming back. I was like, you lived a whole year not realizing that your dad wasn't coming back. I felt like I lost that whole year of my life, even though I did so many things. I I did my sweet 16 party without my dad. I danced with my older brother, stood in for him, but I still sang my song. I still got dressed. I still went and got my hair done. My family came, to the party. It was already paid for. He had everything already, paid for and set up. And um, November 9th was the day that happened that morning. I mentioned I was in a show. Me and my brother were in a show. Well, we decided to go and do the show that night, because I, what do you do? It's like you could sit around and cry and be sad, yeah, or you can go do the show. And I felt like that's what he would have wanted us to do. My dad was not the type of person that ever wanted to see anyone, just sitting in their sadness and hurt. And he knew that there was pain too, he knew, but he also knew that there was beauty beyond that pain. And that was something that he always encouraged us about, you know? Um, and I just, we just said, okay, we'll do the show, and we went and, we dedicated it to him, and at the curtain speech, and like the whole cast just, wrapped their arms around our family for that rest of that weekend. Um, every time I was off stage, I was crying my eyes out. And then I would go back on and do my thing and, do my scene. And it was really powerful though, to, I'm glad that I have that experience to look back on, because it helped me in my grieving process. It helped me to say, hey, Danielle, remember when your dad died and like you went and did a performance that night? Like, do you remember that and how empowering that was, and how much that helped you? So
I'm really glad you're sharing all of this, and that in particular, because so many people don't know how to, we don't know how to move through grief. We don't know what to do or what you're supposed to do, or people might judge you or this or that, or, oh my gosh, you might break down. But instead you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to my community and let them hold me and do what I need to do. And I've been gifted to be holding space as like a death doula kind of energy, and as someone holding space while people are transitioning, and everyone handles grief in different ways. And I know many people who have chosen to move it, to allow it to move through them, or still show up for the show, literally as you did, because it helps them and it's healing for them. And I think it's so important we don't judge that and we allow that to be more normal in our communities. So thank you for everything you're sharing, but particularly that.
yeah, that was a big, I was really I just, me and my brother, I was so proud of us, and we just we held each other and we went, and we did the show, and it was great. And my mom was able to get support too, coming to the theater that night and the next day. And it was special. In a time of just absolute uncertainty and what the fuck.
Oh,
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of stuff, happened after that, even within the family as well. My dad's brothers and sisters. Well, his youngest, who was like my second mom, she died a couple years later at the age of 43 of fallopian tube cancer. um and it was just so crazy. It was like we watched my dad just suddenly up and go. And then his baby sister, we watched her for 6 months just deteriorate, into just where she was calling out for Jesus to come and take her, on her hospice bed at home. I was able to see her the night before she passed, which was really special. And I sang to her and held her hand. And she smiled and she thanked me. And I kissed her on the head, and we heard the next morning early that she had taken her last breath. And I'm so very grateful for, that type of experience, with that, having had, the opposite ends of the spectrum. It's really interesting that, because it's like each is absolutely difficult, in their own way. Right. And I'm glad I had both of those experiences, so that I could see it from both sides, and be able to speak to people from both of those, because they're very, very different. They're so very different. So
Very different.
yeah.
And unfortunately, common. We're all birthed and we all pass and we all come in and leave in different ways and different times. And it's hard, but so common and so important to discuss this,
Yeah, I through my journey from that day, it's been hard, but I have a very different view of death, and I don't fear death. And I also, it's not like I welcome death. I understand that death is a part of life. It's a cycle. I mean, we're all born and we all die. When you accept that as the reality that it is, for me, it takes the absolute about it away. It
Yeah.
does. For me,
You get faith and trust.
yeah, it's a much calmer existence for me. Like when you're like, okay, well, I know that, listen, I'm one more day closer to dying today. And tomorrow I'm going to be one more day closer to that day. I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to be. It's going to happen. But this physical body, at some point, yes, it's going to stop. It's going to stop. I know
Amen, sister.
I'm gonna go live on though, I do. So I'm okay with it now, but let me tell you.
And it's scary as hell. And so many of
Yes.
us gotta and I always joke around, like we have all these, with babies, welcome babies and baby shower and gender reveal and first, 6-month party and all this. Very different when it comes for the soul leaving. Arrival, great. Leaving, awkward, different in different places. Some people, some religions and regions and cultures are good at celebrating it. Some not so much. Here in the United States, we're still a little weird overall with it all. So
Yeah,
it's a hard thing to discuss. It's so important. And like you said, it's a big, huge part of our journey.
yes, it is. It's part of life, and experiencing it at such a young age also, very, very interesting experience. And to be 42 now, right, and look back when I was 15 and 18, and losing those two very important people in my life. Like I said, my world younger was it was a lot of loss, just a lot in general. It was like watching my parents get divorced. That's a loss. My older brother, all that happening and him going sent away. That's a loss. That relationship, that was a loss. Right. And then parents dying, loss. And it was just a lot of loss. A lot of loss.
And then it affected your mental health.
Yes, it affected my mental health. And after that year, after my dad died, I really didn't get into too much trouble. Like I said, I was really just filling my plate with, which I would like to say that now I understand is a trauma response. When you go through a severe traumatic experience, such as finding a parent dead in your bathroom, it's like you can just switch into this go, because you don't get to stop and feel that awfulness, because it's so awful. You don't want to feel it. It's just too big. You've never felt something that big before, especially at that young age. You don't know what to do with that. You don't know what to do. I wish somebody would have talked to me about death when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, and said, hey, this might happen. This could happen. Just so you know, people don't live forever. Someone might just drop dead, but we'll deal with it. Like I didn't know. I didn't know that could happen to people. I really didn't. No one told me. So when it happened, it was like, what do you mean? I didn't know that could happen to people. Not my dad. So after that year, and I'll never forget, this is what started. Well, I started getting very depressed. I started getting very anxious. I want to tell this very specific story. It's very important for parents, okay? I was trying to get little like jobs, and stuff. Um, I was I was trying to function. Every time I got a job and would go into work, I would throw up. I would throw up all the time. I was sick all the time. I was throwing up. My heart would start pounding out of my chest. The room would start spinning. My teeth would get all numb. My ears would ring. They would get hot and tingly. Um, Sometimes my vision would go out. But the vomiting, that being like a very visible, like you can see when someone is vomiting, you can hear when someone's vomiting, that you can't deny that someone is vomiting, right? So I'm getting sick to my stomach all the time, right? My mom keeps taking me to the doctors. There's nothing wrong with me. They can't find anything wrong with me. They don't know why I'm throwing up all this time and having all these things, okay? So one night my mom was up because she wasn't sleeping because she couldn't figure out what's wrong with me. She didn't know I was sick all the time. And an infomercial came on the TV, and it was about anxiety disorder. And it listed all of the things that I was having. And for her, in her brain, it was like something clicked. Like she put two and two together and she was like, wait a minute. She was like, is that maybe what's happening to her? Is that what she's going through? Like, maybe. So she talked to me about it. She came and she's like, I saw this infomercial. I was up late. I couldn't sleep. I'm just worried about like what's wrong with you. And you're coming home from work sick all the time. You can't get through school, So I said, yeah, maybe, I don't know. So she was like, well, if it is, we would need to go see a psychiatrist, or a psychologist, a counselor, something like that, a mental health professional. Okay, so we go and, I talk to them, they evaluate me, and, my mom tells them I've been to the doctor, they can't, they've done tests, blood work, all this stuff, they can't find anything.
Yay, mom. Thank you for not dismissing that commercial.
Right. Yes, physically, wrong. And so they confirmed that what I absolutely what I was experiencing was I was having panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And it was absolutely interfering with my function in life, I mean, to feel like, I would drive myself to the work building and I would sit in the parking lot and I would just shake and I would feel my stomach turning and I would know I was going to throw up when I got in there. I knew it. And I would walk in the door and I would run to the bathroom and throw up every single time I had to do that. So, it was really difficult to be a teenager that, a young person now with this going on. What the, right? So now, I got put on medication. When my dad first passed away, I got put into therapy immediately as soon as my dad passed away. I highly recommend that for anybody. I don't care if it's a child. I don't care if it's a 50-year-old. I don't care. I really, really, really think it doesn't have to be a therapist, counselor, but somebody who has some kind of professionalism or experience, death doulas, like, you know what I'm saying? Get to somebody, please, and get that person to be able to just talk through it. They need to talk through it. I got put into, there was a summer, I spent every single day of my summer at group therapy. Every day. I didn't go outside and get to be a kid during summer. I was in therapy because I was fucked up. I was hurting. I was grieving. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know. You don't know how, especially at a young age. So thank God I was in those group therapy, and they helped me. They helped me tremendously. The groups helped, the individual helped, the medication helped, you know? So now this brings me to where I believe that if I were to have just stayed with my therapy and, you know, my medication, that maybe I would have been okay. But one day I was out, I was doing music. I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, right? I used to play with a band with my friends, and we would sit around and we would write songs at the kitchen table, and we were working on going to record stuff and make albums and all kinds of things, okay? And I wound up becoming somewhat, I guess, infatuated with the guitar player of the band, and he was much older than me. Um, there'd kind of been a little bit of warnings with to both of us, I think, like separately, you know, like, hey, like, you two, I see you guys looking at each other. I don't know if that's a good idea. You know, like, she's, you know, not really okay right now. I think they could see, you know, because what I was going through. Um, and, you know, he's had his own stuff, but both very talented musicians getting together. And sometimes when you get two very intense musicians who are very talented together, you wind up with,
It's like we have professional role models that we, you know,
yeah,
you've
you
seen that.
wind up with you can wind up with some chaos. So
Yep.
I in the music industry, I will just say this: there is a lot of drug use. There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot that goes on in the music industry. It's not always a very safe place. My friends knew that, and they did want to protect me from that, especially my friend Patrick. He always was wanting to look out for me. But of course, I'm my own person. You know, I make my own decisions. One night, me and the guitar player were hanging out. I was not having a good day. This is all it takes. That's why I'm sharing this story, because this is all it takes. I was just, I don't even know. I don't know what the problem was. I was just like, fuck the world. I don't fucking care. Okay. And he was actually trying to help me. He was like, all right, well, do you want to maybe go see a movie? No, I said. What about some miniature golf? No. Do you want to go to maybe like a restaurant? We could like get like an appetizer or some drinks, you know? No. I said no to everything. No, no, leave me alone. No, right? I was just angry. No, no, no. Well, then I guess he just got tired of me saying no. And he was like, well, fine. And he's like, here, you want some of this? Enter cocaine. Yes, I'll take that. Give it to me. I don't give a fuck. Because when you say I don't give a fuck and you really don't give a fuck, guess what? You're going to do the thing that you say you don't give a fuck about. And I did. And I fucked around and I found out. And what I found out is that I loved that shit so much. It made me feel so fucking good that I didn't ever want to be without it ever again. That's what I found out. And then guess what happened? Then it took me on a 10-year freaking road of severe addiction, homelessness, living on streets, kneeling in human shit in bushes to smoke my crack pipe so that I could cover my crack pipe and my fire from wind. living at a bus station, okay? Being outside and getting sprinklered on the grass that you're sleeping on in the middle of the night. Stealing somebody's suitcase so that you could get a clean pair of fucking socks from the bus station. Bathing yourself with soap from the laundromat bathroom. So, fuck around and find out. Go ahead. I can guarantee you, you want to snort some of that kind of shit up your nose. Guess what? It's not going to be the last time. You don't just do that once to try it. I can tell you that for sure. And I'm not the only one that's sitting here saying this. Don't even fucking entertain it. Don't do it. I don't fucking care what anybody says. Come at me. Don't fucking do it. Don't even mess around. Kids, stop it. Stop. And you know why? Because it'll fucking kill you. It killed me. I'm here today, yes, to talk. But let me talk about how I fucking died, okay? I was in and out of psych wards, in and out of psych wards because of all of the times that I attempted to kill myself. Now, what I want to say about this is I understand, yes, that I said I was going to therapy. I was taking medication after my dad died and all that, and it was helping me, okay? This is a true statement, but I also want to touch on the fact that just because it was helping me, okay, doesn't mean that I was in any way healed from it. And it just took that one little tiny moment of vulnerability to try that one substance. And guess what? I was like, fuck medicine. Shh. I stopped taking my medication. Okay. I stopped going to therapy. Yeah, I did. And I wound up. That's where I wound up. And I believe that if I would not have stopped taking my medications and going to my therapy, maybe I wouldn't have wound up there. I don't know for sure. I can't say to you that for sure. I know this, but I'm just going to put a little guess out there that it may have gone a little differently. Okay.
Perhaps a different course would have been charted.
Maybe.
However, we trust in the divine timing, and thank you for experiencing this and sharing with us what you're about to share.
So now I'm here, and so this is what happens.
On the soul level part, of course.
Yes, I go and I'm in and out. I'm all over the place. Okay. I wind up going to Florida to get into treatment. And I went when I was 21. Okay. And my brother is the one that actually helped me to get into treatment. I wound up going to the treatment center that he went to and that he wound up working at for a little while. I was doing very well there. And then I met somebody there, and we moved in together, and we got into, at that time, it was a woman that I met, because I am also, I'm just Danielle. I don't label myself as anything. I just want to put that out there. Here's what I do. I support how anybody wants to live their life, who they want to love or whatever, who you want to go to bed with, go to, it's none of my business. I don't care. I don't care what's under your pants, your shirt. I don't give a shit. Okay. For me personally, I just don't label myself as anything. I just label myself as me, as Danielle. I do sometimes will go into a little bit of detail explanation about just saying, like, what I mean by that is that, okay, if you want to know any of, a little bit deeper about me, I just view things as you're a person, and if I find you beautiful in some way, physically and inside, and I'm attracted to that, then that's that. It's just how it is. And if you're attracted to me back in that way, hey, let's have a conversation and maybe it'll go somewhere, further. I don't know. So I'm just very open like that in general. Right now, my heart belongs to a man and I love him very much. And I'm looking forward to that journey. That's exciting. I never thought I could have love like this in my life either. So that's something, a huge part of my story. But what happened was I I I met this person and I wasn't at the time. I think I was in a place where I had just been feeling so bad for so long that it felt so good to have somebody just like be so attracted to me and want me so badly.
And like love is addicting. Like that was first, like that's a whole nother shot. That's a whole
It,
nother ecstasy. It's a whole nother
yes.
something.
Yes, and thank you for saying it in that way because at the time I didn't know that.
We're not taught that.
Right. Another thing and what happened was I totally, yes, fell into that relationship to soothe me, to make something feel better that didn't feel good. And it wasn't the right relationship for me.
So many people go through. People
Yeah.
tuning in, listening to this. We've all done this on so many different levels and ways, and maybe not all of us, but most of
Yes,
us.
a lot of us. And so, yeah, it was like, but it was like that very deep, intense whirlwind of a like, oh my gosh, like, yes, this feels good and I need it and I want it all the time. And oh, I'll definitely not use drugs now. Well, of course not. You have a new drug. I got my new drug. I didn't realize at the time, but yes. And I mean, I think that it was mentioned I went to some meetings and stuff, and they talked about it in rehab about like trying to stay out of, you know, relationships, at the early part of your recovery, just to give yourself, time. But, you know, um, it's not, the thing is about that is that, but that we don't, I feel like for me, we don't necessarily like process that all the way at that time because it's like, yeah, but like every single thing has been taken away from us right now. Like, it just feels like everything is being taken away. You can't have this, you can't have that. You can't, like when you go to rehab, they take everything away. You can't have your phone, you can't have cigarettes, get locked up and you can go get your cigarette for cigarette break time. You have to eat at a certain time and you have to drink at a certain time, go to the bathroom, you got to get on the bus to go to the meeting. Like they run your whole, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no freedom. That's very difficult to go from being out there running around, literally doing whatever the fuck you wanted, and then coming into this very, 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 ruled environment. That in itself is a fucking shock to a
Yeah,
system. Okay. We don't talk about that either.
yeah.
About the addicts, coming into these facilities and just getting everything taken away from you and telling you can't do this and that and you can't do anything anymore and you have to change everything right now. Whoa, hey, I'm pretty sure that's not successful. Just saying, the most part, you can't just strip somebody of everything and expect them to just be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get better now.
That's a whole nother ball
We
game.
just need a little bit, right? So
And
yeah.
with relationships, we're conditioned too to feel like they're that rescuer thing. Oh, well, I'm going to be seen and heard and loved. There's someone out there who will love me.
Yes, we
And we're not taught, okay, love yourself enough so that you can reflect someone out there to love you at the same capacity. And so we get caught up in that and we're conditioned to via a lot of
yeah.
things. Whole nother conversation.
Yep. So I mean, I did it. I did the relationship, and we were together a very long time. And what happened within that time, I mean, we even went and we went down to it wasn't legal to get married, like I was saying, but we went down to the courthouse and you were able to enter into a domestic partnership. So that was, I mean, even a heterosexual couple can enter into a domestic partnership. It has to do with like how long you've lived under the same roof together. But it is a legally binding thing. And then I found out that you have to actually go through a divorce process to get out of that domestic partnership. So here I am, me and my
Like,
freaking
one size fits all for this part.
yeah, me and my freaking right. What our drug induced heads, we in the pouring rain walk down to this, the whatever local registrar's office and sign these papers to get into a domestic partnership, right? So now this girl is like, well, this is my wife, right? And she really, well, we got into a lot of trouble. Okay, so it was not good. It was very violent. um we did a lot of drugs together. We did a lot of bad things together. And we also were very homeless together. We went to jail together, and all the bad together. And then I felt so stuck at that point. Um, I mean, I'd never met anybody like that. Bye. I just, I was like, what did I get myself into? And I was so sick at that time that the only way I saw out was to just take myself out of the world. I couldn't be here anymore. There was no way in my head that I could stay. So yes, I was constantly trying to take myself out and constantly getting into the hospital. And then this one day, it was a Saturday morning, and I had prepared for that whole week. I had actually been preparing this attempt on my life. Um, I had it all planned out, but nobody knew. And I will talk about that. That guess what? If you're gonna, if you're gonna do something like that and you're really serious about it, um, and you're actually in, like you've planned it and you're on your way to do it, like you're not going to reach out for help. You're past that point already. Like that point happened way back.
Yep.
You missed it. And so if nobody knows, right, because you didn't reach out sooner, if nobody knows, then there you are by yourself, nobody knowing, and you die.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody there to come and get you. So
Which is the intention when when you get
yeah,
that serious and that into that you're right. You don't tell anybody.
no, you won't. You don't want, yeah, because you don't want anybody to stop you.
And it doesn't discount like when you're reaching out for help or you're getting that low or you're thinking about it or anything like that. Because people, that's a part of it too. And like Danielle
Yes.
said, she'd been there too. But in this particular, she was done so in this one.
Right. And yeah, this one I definitely was just like, nah, I'm good. So I did what I needed to do. And I mean, I even stopped at the pharmacy that morning to pick up part of my medicines that I was using to stop my heart. So what was in my head at that time, I can tell you, I was completely calm. I was ready. I was good. Like I was so ready that I was actually like looking forward to just going to sleep because I was so fucking tired. I had nothing left. I really didn't. I had nothing left in me. My life life had just battered me down to nothing. So I said, it's fine. And when you get to that point, it's the strangest feeling because you really don't feel upset. There was no sad for me. I just felt a sense of relief. I was like, please welcome me. I'm ready. Please, I'm coming. And then part of that too, when you lose somebody very close to you and you believe, because I believe that, my dad is never, he's not gone. I mean, he shows himself all the time, like I talk to him. We have a very close relationship, and I know he was always around and showing me. But that was honestly part of this was I just want to be with my dad again. Now, if you don't take care of your grieving, and you live in that I just want to be with my person again, I can almost guarantee you that your thoughts can get to this place as well. There's a lot of things that brought me to this place, but I'm just saying that is a part of it that made me feel so calm about it. And so, like, okay, I'm ready. It's good. It's fine. Because maybe I could just reunite with my dad again and be happy.
Walk the bridge of love.
So it was like I didn't care. And I also, in that space in my mind, I would like people to know that I was like, I genuinely believed that if I went away, that people's lives would just calm down and they wouldn't have to be hurting so much all the time with, oh my God, Danielle again. Oh my God, Danielle again. Oh, she's in the hospital again. She just had her stomach pumped again. Oh my God, she's, you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like people were just, they couldn't anymore, And so that's another reason that now I will tell you that, yes, do people get tired? Yeah, they do. And does it hurt them to watch their loved one struggling? Yes. But I will also say this, that is why mental health is important and it matters. And that is why everyone, if taking care of their mental health, yes, it's sad to watch somebody go through that. And especially if you're empathetic, like you were talking about, right? You have to take care of yourself and let that person just do their thing and know that you have absolutely no control over what happens to them. And that's between them and themselves and the universe and God and whatever else is greater.
Mhm.
So I need everybody to understand that if somebody is struggling, you might not be able to help them.
Yeah.
But you need to take care of you. You're the person in that situation that is actually the most important. And I say that because when you're okay, I think you can actually, you have a better chance of helping that person if you are good within you.
Mhm.
Okay? You're calmer, you're not worried, you're not taking on their stuff and getting so upset and chaotic, and then they're like, no, you're not helping me, you're making it worse.
Yeah.
There were so many times where I know people wanted to help me, but they were making it worse because they just didn't know how to even, because they weren't taking care of themselves. So that's why I'm just here, keep saying mental health matters, not just for the person who's sitting there getting ready to kill themselves, but for the person who loves that person.
Exactly. For every being, for every brain, for every mental
Every
capacity,
brain.
it
Yes.
matters.
Yes. So I what I did that day was I left a note on the table that said, I went for a walk. I'll be back. Because my partner was sleeping. And I left the house, stopped at the pharmacy. I also filled up a gallon jug of water just to make sure I had, plenty of water to take the 100 pills I was going to take. And I brought along with me a pocket knife. And I also brought along with me my Medicaid card, which had my name and my address on it. And I had my ID in my pocket. And I had a Sharpie marker. Now, I cannot tell you what I wrote, but I wrote all over my body in Sharpie marker messages to my people, to people. So my body was covered in black Sharpie marker words. I took my pocket knife and I carved into my arm, I'm sorry. And then I remember I was wearing these camouflage like uh, cargo type pants, and they came with this beautiful satin sash belt, right? This like pretty green. It was so soft. And um, well, as I was sitting there, I was sitting next to the Delaware River, okay, on the Jersey side. I'd walk down this side road from the pharmacy side road, and there was this big car, used car place on the right side, and then it got to like this grass and trees, and when I looked over, there was, it like went down this big hill, and then there was like beautiful water, like the water just was like running over the rocks like really softly. There's down tree limbs and stuff, and tree trunks making like these cool like tree caves, with like beautiful leaves growing all over. The one organization that I work with, they make bracelets, and I had my bracelet on from them. It has like a little bee charm, and I sat down. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you why I told you that. Anyway, because that's a fucking good story. Because I'm telling you, healing is awesome. Just hang in there with me.
It is. I'm
This
hanging.
this story is crazy. So I take I go, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, that looks like a really nice spot, like it's beautiful there. So I get myself down this really steep hill, right? And I sit down, I'm listening to the water, just, oh my God, I think that was the most peaceful I had ever felt in my entire life. The sky was the bluest blue with these puffy clouds, my favorite kind of clouds. And I'm sitting there, and that's when I started just taking I'm just I'm drinking the water, drinking the water. I remember writing on myself, doing all that. And then I thought to myself, just in case, I just really want to make sure that this works. So I took my belt from my pants and I tied it around my neck, and I tied myself to the tree. And the only thing I remember after that was just seeing the blue sky and my eyes slowly closing. And that was it. And the next thing that I was then aware of was waking up with tubes down my throat in the ICU in the hospital. So what had happened in that time that I was not awake was this. And this is how I know that angels exist. Because when I tell you, there is no way that in the state, the condition I was in, I could have gotten back up that freaking hill that I slid down to get down to that area, but I did. And not only that, for some reason, I don't remember any of this, I put rocks in my empty jug of water. And I was carrying this gallon plastic jug full of rocks. I made it to the top of the thing and started walking down that road where the used car place was, and I collapsed right in the road. Just fell right over. And the guy was there at his shop that day, and he came running out because he saw a person like stumbling and then fall, and he was like, oh my God. And he ran over and he said, I wasn't breathing. He said, you were turning blue. You weren't breathing. He said, I was shaking you, calling you. He said, I called 911. He said, and they took 10 minutes to get there. He said, and I was freaking out because I went and talked to him when I got out of the hospital. Because I remember my mom telling me the story when I woke up, and she said, the guy from the used car place called the ambulance because he saw you collapse in the road outside of the building. And I was like, oh, so that's why I had gone back to talk to him. And I thanked him. And he was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're standing in front of me right now. Like his face was just like,
Bet.
he was like, oh my God. Like, he was like, I really thought it wasn't going to be okay. It took them 10 minutes to get here. And I was like, oh my God, she's not going to be okay. Like he said, and they came and they were working on you and they took you. He said, and I was just praying and praying and praying. He's like, I can't believe you're standing in front. Cause it was like a month later, like that I had come to him because, I went through a lot after that.
Yeah, and when you left with them, you probably thought, there's no way you made it.
Right. Yeah.
Especially after seeing that, you being blue and all the things and not breathing for 10 minutes that he knew of.
Right. So he's like, there's no way. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way. So what had happened from there was they put me in a medically induced coma to try to help me, to regulate in some way or maybe try to come back. It was the third day, the machine started going off and going crazy, and all the doctors and nurses were running in and trying, because I was going unstable. They were starting to lose me. And my mom she was there the whole 3 day, she was just sitting by my bed, I guess waiting for me to maybe wake up. And they came to her, the doctor came to her and he said, he said, it's been, around 3 days now. He said, things are not looking very good at all. He was like, so I really think you should start thinking about making arrangements, if you want to get, call somebody in to pray. And well, later on that afternoon, I opened my eyes and I kind of lifted my head up a little. And I was looking around and my mom's face, I saw my mom's face and she was like, oh my God, hi, you're awake. She was just like,
Shock.
and I was like, and she was like, and she started like, she goes get some nurses, like a nurse comes over. I can't talk. I have tubes down my throat. And I'm like, oh shit. A nurse comes over immediately. She starts talking, she's talking to me and she's like, hey, how are you there? She's like, I know you can't talk. You have tubes in your throat. She's like, we're good. We'll get them out. She's like, I think you're okay now. And so, they came in, they took the tubes out and she said, okay. She's like, listen, we need to talk about something. She said, either you can go upstairs voluntarily or we can send you up there, not voluntarily. And she said, what I will say is that if you do it voluntarily, it will be a lot easier for you and it will look a lot better for you. And I was like, so she was talking about bringing me up to the psych unit. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll go voluntarily. And I said, but why the fuck am I awake? She was just like, I was like, this didn't fucking work. Are you fucking kidding me? And then my mom, she was like, please calm down. She was like, oh my God, my daughter, she's waking up and like, she's fucking pissed. I was like, oh no. I was like, what? How am I going to do this? I was like, I did not plan to make it through this. Now I have to figure out how to freaking go on after this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went up. I did go upstairs.
And also, did you have any experiences that you remember while you were unconscious, or it was just that was it? You remember like the blue sky, and then next thing is waking up with the tubes?
Completely black.
Cool.
There was nothing, absolutely nothing. It was just from there to there. And now when I look back at that, listen, I truly believe that I died. And I truly believe my soul was reborn in that moment. And I came back into my body as a very young even maybe as a baby, and I've been watching myself on the inside in an adult body grow up.
Okay.
That's what I literally feel like happened to me. There's no other way I can explain that.
Okay.
And now, like, I would even say when I could feel that I was in like my teenage years, like now I feel like I'm about like 25.
Okay.
I made it to like 20. Like I've been doing it all over. I've gotten a chance to do it all over.
Your consciousness was reborn.
Yes. And so I went up to the, psych ward, and I stayed there for 2 weeks. I was going through a lot coming out of that. I started having a lot of grand mal seizures. They had to start like injecting me with seizure medication to make sure, which is very painful. But anyway, to keep me from having seizures because I was hurting myself. And then from there, my mom fought. She fought them because they were going to discharge me, but I was still angry that I was alive. So my mom came in there and she was like, if you discharge my daughter and anything happens to her, I'm going to fucking sue you so hard. She was like, you fucking let her go. I'm telling you, she's not okay. And so they admitted me to the state hospital. It's called, I do not know why anyone named this building a psychiatric ward. Okay, a hospital. It's called Hagedorn. And it is literally like on this big mountain, like that, like spirals up on like, it looks like something out of like a Tim Burton.
It's like straight up plastic, yeah, out of like, it's just wild what you would think.
It was so wild. There was, this fencing with like this barbed wire over it. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Now, when I went there, I stayed there for 2 weeks. So altogether, 4 weeks, I was in facility. And those 2 weeks, listen, here's the thing is, we're really smart. When you don't want to be locked up, you know what to do to get out. So, I did everything they told me to do, everything. And then they were like, well, we don't have any proof or reason to keep her here. She's done everything we've asked of her. She's not shown one sign of anything. The reason I'm glad I went to that place is because I heard one thing there that I needed to hear, that I believed helped me for the rest of my life to never, ever attempt suicide on myself again, because I never have, not since that day. Okay. I've never, ever made an attempt on my life. And the doctor looked at me across the desk and she said, I want you to understand something. She said, what you did is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, damn, I've had a lot of other problems before. And like, I'm pretty sure the solution wasn't killing myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not, and it hit me because in my head, it was okay and normal for me to kill myself if I didn't want to live here. And why should anybody tell me that that's not okay? Fuck you, I would say to them. I would say, you're not allowed to tell me how to live my life. And if I don't want to be here, well, then I have that right to not be here. Now leave me alone. And I truly believed that until that doctor said that to me. Sometimes you just need to be in a place just to hear one thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard it and I said, oh my God, she's right. And I needed to hear that. And I heard it and it was done. So I got out of there. Now, I'm sure, a lot of people would be like, oh man, I'm so glad you made it through that. You know what I mean? Like, glad you're doing well. Well, let me tell you something. When I got out of that hospital, do you think that I stayed well? Guess what? A week later, I was smoking crack again. Okay. So, listen, here's the point. You can fool other people all you want. You can do it. I know. I did it. But you can't fool yourself. And guess what? They don't care if you're fooling them. It doesn't hurt them. It only hurts you. That's the lesson. It only hurt me. They didn't care I was smoking crack. I mean, they cared. They wanted me to be well, but guess what?
They preferred you didn't, but it's not, yeah, it's
Yeah.
on
So
you.
that was on me. I went and
Yep.
made that choice. I went and I made that choice because I said, F it. I'm so tired, man. I'm tired. But you know what? I didn't give up. I didn't give up. I kept going. I kept going. Listen, I've been raped. I've been hit in the head by drug dealers. Okay. I have actually been used as collateral for money and drugs, where I was kept captive in a drug dealer's apartment, and he would not let me go all night. And he's looked at me and he said, "You're lucky I don't fucking rape your ass." I don't know how I made out of that one alive. Okay. But let me tell, so yeah, I've been through shit, man. I could tell you, I've been through it. I've been through narcissistic abuse. Okay. Why am I still here today? I'm going to tell you why. I know why now. I'm here because I get to tell everybody and anybody that you can recover from those things that broke you down to the ground. You can. Some people die. They do. We can't save everybody. I know this. I'm not trying to save anybody's life. I'm only trying to keep myself here and healthy. But by sharing these things, I truly believe that other people can then can become empowered to maybe take some steps for themselves in their own lives, to stand up and fight like you've never fucking fought before. And you know who you have to fight for? You. You got to fight to get yourself back. I had to fight to get myself back. The reason that I'm okay today is because I walked away from a lot of things that were no longer serving me well. And you know what I did? I started to go within myself and spend time with me. I didn't want to, and I fought it. I fought it at every angle. I was like, I will not be my friend. I don't need me. I just need some other people in my life to be nice to me and show me some love, and I'm fine. Let me tell you something. If you think that you can hate yourself and go in life and be happy and have happy relationships and such like that, you're really wrong. I'm going to call you wrong. I am. That is wrong.
And I agree. And I had to learn the hard way. And it's hard for me to even say this is right or this is wrong, but you learn yourself that the more shit you talk to yourself, it doesn't get you anywhere good.
It doesn't. So, you know what? Yeah, I died. But the reason I'm still alive today is because I took time, even though it was uncomfortable and I hated every second of it. I took time to start being nice to myself. I took time to stop and say, I know you feel like reaching out to somebody right now. Why don't you try reaching out to yourself? What would yourself say to you right now, Danielle, that you're so upset? What would you tell yourself? If this was somebody writing to you frantically and all upset and emotions all over the place and you can't get yourself together, what would you say to them right now? What would you be for them right now? That's what I started doing. I started asking myself, hey, self, what can I be for you right now? What do you need? Can I do that for you? Because guess what? When I started doing that, I started to realize that there's only one person that knows how to do it for you perfectly, and that's you. Everyone else is going to let you down somehow. And not because they're the type of people that let you down. That's not why.
They want it. It's our own ego thing.
Yes, it's because we have this like, oh, well, you're supposed to be making me feel better. You're supposed to be comforting me. You're supposed to be telling me something good. You're supposed, right? Well, no, they're not supposed to. If they do that and they give that to you on their own accord because they want to, then that's beautiful energy. But nobody is expected to be that for you. Nobody owes you that. You owe that to yourself. You're the only one
Mm.
who's ever owed that to you. So that's where I'm at with that right now. And, I believe, here's what I believe in. A lot of, here's what's helped me in my recovery. I'm going to just name a few things.
I love it, because my last question was going to be like, so tell us where you're at now. What's working for you? So you are
Yeah.
segueing yourself right on in. Get it,
Yep.
girl.
So here is, I wanted to show some things. I like show and tell. So this is my medicine container. And I show this because I will tell you that for the longest time, I had the hardest time getting my medicine together and remembering to take my medicine. And I did even try.
Turning on my power. Sorry. For
Okay.
my computer.
No, you're fine. So I tried, I even did try to use like one of these pill, straight, like I did one like for like the week, but that wasn't even working. Like I was forgetting to take my medicine. When you're on medicine, you want to take it the same time every day, and you don't want to miss doses. It's not a good idea. And if you're going to taper off, you want to do that gradually, you always
You
want to
gotta
talk
give
to,
your system, you gotta honor your system and give it time to adjust.
yeah,
It's the same, even if you're changing up foods, it's the
food,
same thing. Like it's the same thing
everything.
with your medicines. Yeah.
Yes, everything. You got to, yeah, it's important to be really conscious about that stuff. So like, you know, um, I I was having struggles, but here's the thing is I never ever stopped trying to figure something out that worked for me. That's a very important message that I want to get out there is that, okay, so if you try something and that doesn't work, don't give up. Don't be like, oh fuck, I'm a lost cause. Right? Which we say that sometimes. I'm just a lost cause. I
Oh
can't get
yeah.
it. I can't get this. I just can't get my shit together. Well, now if we say those words, I can't get my shit together, guess what's going to happen? I'm not getting my shit together. I can tell you, I'm not.
In fact, you will manifest it to go that
I
way.
will.
You're calling in.
Exactly. That's what I've learned about
We're
words.
that powerful.
Words are that powerful, people. I'm not kidding you. I'm only speaking from experience. Try it. Do a test. Lie to somebody about being sick, and that's why you can't go somewhere, and watch you get sick the next day. What? So
Yeah.
the reason I have this is because this is now a monthly one. So only once a month, I have to sit and I just fill this, and then it's there for the whole month. And then it also, will remind me when I'm getting close to when I have to refill my medications, because I have also run into them many times where I'm just taking my medicine, doing my thing, thinking I'm doing all good. And then I go to take my medicine and I'm like, oh shit, I only have one pill left. Now I need to try to, oh shit, and oh no, the pharmacy's not open right now. I can't call and blah, blah, and that happens, right? Now these are just little things that I'm speaking about that really, really actually make a huge difference in your mental health. When you're really taking care of those little things like that, it's like it takes that stress off of you, and you just know that you have it, it's there, you don't have to worry about it, and you're good, right? So I have that
And a
helps.
form of self-love. Like discipline is a form of self-love. And like you said, it was a bridge. You had to train yourself and build yourself to get there. And then you found when you did that and implemented it, it created more peace.
Yes, absolutely. Like now me and my meds are good. Like we have a good relationship, and it's very rare that I miss, doses, and so that's good because then that keeps you stable. I also I have this thing about I made this a long time ago. Now it
Wow.
says healed, and the L is actually made out of a symbol from a book that is one of my favorite authors, Eckhart Tolle, and in his book, he has this symbol. It's actually my first tattoo I ever got too. I always said, I'm not getting a tattoo until I see it. I'm gonna know it. And I was reading that book, and I was like, that's it. He wants you, when you see this symbol in his book, he wants you to stop at that point, and he wants you to pause and reflect on what you've just read, soak it in, receive it, really sit with it. And this also goes along with, for me, like the third step in the 12 steps of AA, because I went through those, and let me tell you, very helpful. They still apply today. I use them in my life every day, the 12 steps. I highly recommend, if anybody wants to just look at them. There's many different versions, but it's the same. It's, the basic idea of it is that it's helping you to have a spiritual awakening, right? That's the whole point. Because when you have a spiritual awakening, those very toxic, bad things fall away from you. You don't have those desires for them anymore. That's what a spiritual awakening can do for you. So this is pausing and reflecting, which goes along with one of the steps, which is, I believe, step 3 is, doing a daily reprieve, right? So that's very important. When I sit down, whether it doesn't have to be at any certain time of day. What's important is that each day I sit and take a few minutes to say to myself, okay, what did I do good today? What could I use a little bit of work on? And do I need to make any apologies to anybody? Did I maybe say or do something that hurt somebody's feelings? Did I yell at someone because I got, go through and I look and I say, okay, now let's make that right, whatever it is. And that's for me, because other people appreciate it too, but that's for me because it helps me to feel very good about myself. Self-esteem is important, right? We want to build ourselves up. If we're feeling bad about ourselves, we're doing the guilt. A lot of it was the guilt that got me into that very dark place of like, oh my God, dude, you've done so many fucked up things. You're such a horrible person because of all those fucked up things you did. Like, you don't even deserve to be here. Those thoughts too, right? You don't even.
I've had those thoughts. I
Yeah,
know we are the worst to ourselves,
we
man.
are. If anybody talked to me the way I have talked to myself, I'm pretty sure I would have walked up to them and punched them in the face. Like, I might have gone to jail.
Oh, I feel like almost every person can honestly say that.
Yeah, right.
There's some exceptions, but for the most part, many of us have sat there.
Yes. And so now
We're
the reason,
assholes to ourselves
very
until we
much,
learn not to be.
until we learn not to be. We don't have to be. That's right. You can switch it around. And the reason I made this word in this tense, healed.
Nope.
But listen, I know that people want to, I know, I hear it all the time. You're never going to be healed. You're healing forever, forever and ever and ever. Healing is forever. You don't ever get to it, right? I know this. I understand what you're saying, but I would like to take it a step further and say, listen, I'm fucking healed, bitch. You know why? Because today I wake up and I say, oh, what are we doing today? What's today have in store? And guess what? I used to wake up every day going, oh my God, I woke up again, another day, gloom and doom. What the fuck am I going to do? I don't want to be here. So to me, I'm healed.
Hell yeah, you are.
Okay. In that sense, I'm absolutely healed. And that can happen. The other thing I did was I committed myself to myself. And I bought myself this beautiful looking, sparkly, just like me engagement ring. And I got engaged to myself. I asked myself, will you please commit yourself to me on this day and going forward, that no matter what, you're going to put yourself first, and you're going to be good to you and kind to you, and you're going to love you just like you've been loving everyone else in your life, that you're going to give yourself some of that. So ever since, and the reason I did that is because for me, and this isn't for everybody, but this is just for me, having tangible things that I can touch and see, it's easier for my brain than to remember. When
Mhm.
I'm trying to pull that stuff from my brain, when my brain is always going a mile a minute, I can't hear that. So if I have this on my finger, I can just look down and go, ah, yes, I got you. And that's it. So
And
I
you
also,
pause and reflect. You
I,
use that symbol.
I do. I use it all the time. It helps me so, so much. I also have, I, another thing that I do is, I go outside and I, put my bare feet in the grass, or on the pavement, or that sometimes I just walk the dog with no shoes on. I put a a bird feeder on my window so that I can sit in my room sometimes and just watch the birds, come to the window, and they're so close, I don't scare them away, so I can just watch them there. These are just little things that I do to just keep myself, in those good high vibration feelings and stuff. Do
Call
I
those all our medicines. That's the
medicine?
part of like the journey of healing's never done for me, is that's the part of, all right, well, let's practice our medicines, hold ourselves accountable. And that's how we stay healed. That's how we
Mhm.
stay in this perspective. And then things can come in because of that, because you showed up with that self-love. And even if that's just putting a bird feeder outside your window, that's a medicine for the
Yep,
heart.
it is. And I do need to bring up something that I think a lot of people would sit here, because I've heard it said so many times. And I need to say something about it. Okay, because hear me out. Because how does somebody like me overcome what I'm going to talk about? I'm going to tell you. So I hear a lot of people who are really struggling with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, BPD, bipolar, whatever it might be. I hear a lot of people saying, okay, well, yeah, that's great. You want to tell me to get up and go outside. I can't even get out of my bed. I'm so depressed. I have no energy. I can't get out of my bed. I have no energy. That's what depression is. Yes, you are absolutely right. And it's awful and it feels terrible. And you know what? That fatigue that comes with that depression is something fierce. Okay. You feel like you can't even lift your finger. But let me tell you something. That's the time when you have to get up. That is the moment when sometimes, I'm not saying every time, there is some times where you really do need to fall into that and you need to allow yourself to rest, right? And you have to listen to your body. But there are if you're going on like that fifth day of I'm in this bed and I'm so fatigued and tired and whatever that I can't, like, that's the time where, you know what you do? You sit up on your bed, you put your feet over the bed, have them touch the floor, and you just sit there, even if it's for 5 minutes. And you just take some deep breaths and you say, you know what? I sat up and I put my feet on the floor. And if you have to go back and lay down after that, do it. And then you know what? The next hour, do it again. And then that time, stand up. I'm talking baby. This is baby steps. And yeah, you might feel silly doing it. Oh, well, whatever. I sat up in my bed. Whoop, big whoop. You have to understand that that is huge. You need to tell yourself that, whoa, girl, you just sat up after laying in bed for 5 days. Can't even get up. Okay. So go outside the door, even if you don't even step outside, then open the door. Maybe pull the curtain. Some little tiny thing. I promise you, it doesn't.
Mountains.
Yes, it doesn't cure. Nothing cures. We know this, but we also know that we can help it to feel a little lighter and a little better. And we can slowly, we can get ourselves out of that. We can. Um, I've done it so many times.
And I just, it's controversial, I suppose, but I just think the only person who can get you out of that is you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything else is just a tool, a resource, a helping hand, a support. The only one who can actually do it is you. That's what
Amen.
makes it all so sacred.
That's what, and that's, I feel that's actually become a very good topic in this conversation today, is that we've been coming back to a lot, is that it's you that you need. It's your friendship that you need. It's your love that you need. It's that bond with yourself that you need, and that's going to help you. That and those little things will help you get that bond with yourself. It does feel freaking crazy at first. It feels so freaking weird. I'm telling you, it's not really, it's weird, but
Well, it's not what we're used to, and
right.
we're taught to, like you said, especially when you're talking about relationships and entanglements, expectations of people, or well, you're supposed to make me feel better. Like, actually, we're supposed to make ourselves feel better. We're not taught, and especially as women and programming and so many things. But it's really radical to learn how to truly love yourself and show up for yourself. It's not an easy thing. None of what we're talking about is simple or easy, but it does one day click for you if you let yourself keep showing up for yourself.
Yes. So, I mean, those are just, I still have my psychiatrist. I see every 3 months, because, I've gotten to the point where I don't have to go every month. Like, he knows that I'm stable, and he can look at me and tell, that my skin is okay, my hair looks okay, that's another thing he taught me. He was like, he said it's really important for clients to be seen in person. He said, because we need to see you. We need to see you. We need to smell you. We need to, he said, we can't do that over the video. He said, and I feel like a lot of people are not really getting, there's some things aren't being picked up on with some people, and things are getting missed, because we've gotten so far away from, being in person because of, what happened with COVID, and, getting into all the, the video appointments and stuff. But yeah, I was like, wow, that's an interesting, I'm glad he brought that to my attention. And I was like, I will now, make sure that I go to my appointments in person. And so yeah, I talked to him. I'm not currently in therapy. I'm looking for assistance for therapy. So an interesting part about my story is that when I had that suicide attempt, I got involved with Easter Seals, who helped me. I was on welfare for a while too. Like, I lived in a welfare hotel. Sometimes I ate dry pasta, like just from the box, whatever we could, get from the food pantry. And the caseworkers are the ones that actually helped me to get on partial disability. Uh, and I saw like their doctors and everything, and they were like, well, we definitely need to like try to help keep this girl alive. So like they approved me, and so I I can work part-time. Um, and then my body decided that stored trauma is like a really real thing, and
I know all too well.
right. And my body, I've been dealing with the fibromyalgia of it, and lower back. I do have lower back injuries. I have 3 herniated discs in my lower back. But so due to like the physical stuff I've been dealing with, it's been very hard for me to work part-time. And I only get so much money. Like, I live at my mom's house in her spare bedroom because I went through a divorce. I was married again. That didn't work out. So I'm also twice divorced. That was my fault. I should have never gotten married or in that situation. And I take full responsibility for that. And I'm glad that the person is without me. I can honestly, truly say that. that they are better without me. And I hope that they have found the right person for them, because they deserve that, and they deserve the right person, and they deserve all the love in the world, because they're one of the best persons I've ever met. So yeah, there's a lot of healing in that too. But that was, a rough situation as well, and a lot of realizations. But I live here with my mom and my grandmother. I am a part-time caretaker to my grandmother. She's 89, and but still, walking around and cooking and going. I take her grocery shopping once a week, and I'm getting to know her by living here. And that's been a blessing. So see, I could sit here and I could be like, oh, fuck this, I got to live with my mom, I'm 42, blah, blah, and I could do that. But what I know is that I have choices today, and I choose to see it a different way, which is that I'm getting an opportunity to that a lot of people in my family are not getting the opportunity, is to get to know my mom and my grandmother now,
As adult women
as
on
adult
a
women. Yeah, and three
I
generations.
I live with my mom, and we take care of my Nana who's 89.
Oh
So I
my God,
understand that
stop
under
it.
much.
That's so funny.
And there's nowhere else I would be right now after everything I've been through, all my traumas and dramas. I don't give a shit what anybody says to me, judges me, thinks of me, whatever. There's nowhere else I'd want to be at this point in this chapter in my life. And it's
Yeah.
sacred to spend some time with them and learn and do the lineage shit. All good.
Amen. Yes, that's when I started realizing. I was like, oh, I know why you're here.
Why do I keep ending up back here?
Oh, I get it. We needed to heal some shit. Yeah, because this is not the first time I've wound up back at my mom's house.
I have no doubt.
Yeah. So
what a beautiful, beautiful conversation and story. And thank you for being open and honest and vulnerable and willing to share like everything that you've been through, what you're up to now, your current space, and what are you most, I guess a good question would be, what are you most open to receiving now? Or what is most flowing through you at this time arising? Because sounds like there's a lot.
for me, it's creating all the things in my life that I've wanted to create my whole life. That I could finally feel like I'm ready to actively be a part of those things. And I say that meaning like singing, my singing stuff. I mentioned I was a singer songwriter. Me and my dad, we used to write songs together all the time. June 11th is my dad's birthday, and I will be going into the recording studio on June 11th to record my very first single. I'm going to record my Look in the Mirror single, and then I'm going to put it out on all music streaming platforms. That's something that is just, I'm so excited about that. And it's like a long time coming. I should have been recording a long time ago, but dad died and everything just went away. Like he was taking me to recording studios and stuff, and he was making me demo tapes. He got my demo tape to Tommy Mottola at Sony Music when he passed away, and then all that went away, but so now I'm also, I'm finding my new voice, my new singing voice, because you mentioned something about being damaged. When I had the tubes down my throat from after my suicide attempt, my vocal cords were damaged during that, and I came out not being able to. I didn't have the voice that I was born with, and I was devastated, and I didn't sing for 10 years. So now this is another part of my healing journey, and another part of my story is that I've worked all these years to get comfortable with the voice that I have now, and I have had to accept my limited range. I used to have a much bigger range, but now I just sing lower. I take songs and I put them in different keys and I make it my own. Now when I write my music, I'm much more confident about writing and singing. So I'm looking forward to getting my music out. I really, really am. It's something that's just needed to happen for a long, long time. And I've been sabotaging myself and holding myself back from it for years because of fear. And I am not living in fear anymore. So when you don't live in fear anymore, you can have fun in your life. But when you're living in fear, yeah, you have dreams, but because you're so afraid, you can't enjoy it at all. You can't enjoy your gifts. You can't enjoy the things that make you happy when you're in fear. So letting go of that fear, healing these things and allowing them, allowing it to bring me to this place of where I just am ready to create everything. I mean, I did the garden, I do the garden, I'm planting seeds now. I like to watch the seeds pop and grow. Like that teaches me patience and a
Mm.
lot of love and caring, and also that every seed you plant is not going to make it. That's another
Yep.
good lesson.
True.
Just like I learned with this whole thing, um, that what was supposed to be didn't happen, and it, died and shriveled away, but now, this bloomed. So I'm looking forward to also, but I am also looking forward to moving on from this home and making a life for myself, because I have been here for a long while, and I do think that I owe it to myself to finally have a life that I've always wanted. And I'm more than happy to help out and be here, for my family when they need my help. And I love that. I love helping my grandmother. But I also do think it would be great to have my own space and just my own little life. And, I've always been afraid to do that because I didn't think that I could live on my own, because I was afraid that if I got upset, I would try to kill myself. Honestly, that's why I've never been able to live by myself. So now I can trust
Now
myself.
you're all free and shit.
Yeah, it's like I have this trust with
Yeah.
myself now. I've built a trust with me that I'm like, okay, Danielle, we know now that you're not going to do anything to hurt yourself. Like, we know that if you start feeling bad, we know you're going to reach out for help to prevent it from getting any worse. I have used the 988 text line. It used to be the suicide prevention line. Now it's just 988 like crisis lifeline. Um, and that is, I mentioned that is important because you don't have to be in a crisis to call that number. Prevention means that you can prevent something very bad from happening if you get there soon enough. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
maybe you're like, oh man, I had a really bad upsetting fight with, my partner, and I don't know what to do. You could text that number or call it, and just say, hey, can you help me process this? If you need something to help just bring you down a little bit, and maybe just calm stuff down so that it doesn't, go further into something else. So, I really, that's important to touch on. I use it, and I believe in it. It works. And I am just going to put out a children's book soon, probably this year. I wrote it already, and I have a friend, an artist friend of mine, who is going to illustrate it for me. She's my favorite local artist that I've ever met. So yeah, I just have lots of projects happening. I do arts and crafts during the day sometimes too, just to, keep that creative flow going. And, yeah, I just am very, very grateful for everything that I have in my life. I mean, even if it's like from the blanket on my bed, I feel like if I live in that gratitude, it's really, really hard for me to be sad. It really is.
Makes a huge difference for me. And
Yeah.
it's not sunshines and rainbows and fairy tales. It's a real true like energy of gratitude and like, all right, you know what? Like maybe I don't want to be living in Nana's house right now, but shit, it's storming out and I'm comfortable and safe and all the things. And I am grateful in this moment. And it's about having those talks with yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, this
So
was beautiful.
so yeah, that's that. So singing and just living life, and maybe going around and doing some motivational talks. I would love to be able to um be able to work at some point with some youth, teenagers, especially. So yeah, we'll see. I'm sure, that's coming.
I
And
always say time will tell, always does.
yes, I believe I'm in the right place, and I do believe that everything that is meant for me, it will come. And I believe that things are already laid out. I just haven't made it to those pages yet, so I'm good.
Danielle, how do people find you, get a hold of you, follow your new conversations that will be coming out on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I have a music page. If anybody ever wants to go, and I sometimes like just post either a live of me singing something random that I might feel in the moment. Just
They're incredible. The energy's great.
yeah, sometimes I just get like struck in the moment of something, like, or I'll hear a song and I'll be like, oh man, and I just led to share it. So on that page, it's called, that one's just Danielle with one L. That's how I just changed the spelling of my name just to be, that's like my kind of my artist name.
That's cool. You
Yeah,
can even
so,
add in your squiggle eventually.
oh, I
Or
like
Eckhart.
that. Yes, that's perfect. Oh my God, how cool would that look?
Exactly.
Fuck yes. This is why we do these things. Get good ideas. So Danielle is on Facebook, Daniele. You can just type that in, it'll bring you right to my music page. And then my YouTube is under my full name, Danielle with two L's, Fiorello, Fiorello. You can just type that into YouTube and it'll bring you to my page. Now, you might come up to 2 pages, and the other one kind of lost with when I lost my phone. I don't know, something happened, I couldn't transfer it on, but anyway, so I made a new one. The one without the picture is the one that is my like current YouTube that I will be putting my conversations with Danielle on. But I have a lot of random stuff on there too, on my YouTube, like
Hey,
music. I have
Danielle's
music,
world.
I have nature, I have some readings from some books, just random stuff that I feel led to share sometimes. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your voice, your story, your energy, for waking the fuck up today and doing life again
Doing it.
and showing up and being here. And I'm so excited to hear more of the conversations that you end up posting. And I'm grateful to see, where all of the things lead all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful morning, and I'm feeling really, really nice right now. So I'm glad that we did this, and that we've turned, something, a little icky into something great, right? Beautiful
Actually,
stuff. That's how we do it.
and if you've made it to the end of this, we thank you all for tuning in and being here.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day.